Chapter 239. The Bamboo House. In a luxurious room, Mu Wuxuang's body was wrapped tightly in a sheet. Her face was pale and her eyes were lifeless and filled with despair. Her eyes were filled with deep pain. Gao Ling, Yun Luo Feng, one day, I will make them suffer a fate worse than death. Mu Wuxuang's eyes burned with hatred at the thought of how these people had harmed her to such an extent. It was as if a flame was burning in her heart. Knock, knock, knock. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door. The sound was like a curse, causing Mu Wuxuang's body to tremble violently. She bit her lip and asked, "Who is it?" "Wuxuang, it's me." Outside the door, the voice that had once haunted her dreams drifted in, causing the hatred in her eyes to grow even stronger. However, she suppressed the anger in her heart and said, "Come in." Creak. The door was pushed open, and a thin figure slowly walked into the room. The young man's face was as handsome as a knife, but his aura was no longer as sharp as before. Instead, it was filled with a sense of decadence. He stared blankly at Mu Wuxuang and asked in a dry voice, "Wuxuang, are you all right? All right?" Under these circumstances, he's actually asking if I'm all right? What's the difference between this and slapping me? Mu Wuxuang took a deep breath and a mournful smile appeared on her pale face. "Crown Prince, no matter what I do for you, it's all worth it, Wuxuang." Gao Ling strode forward and pulled Mu Wuxuang's soft body into his arms. He did not notice the cold glint in the young girl's eyes. How could she treat Gao Ling the way she did in the beginning after experiencing such a thing? However, in order to make this man feel guilty, she could only pretend that nothing had happened. "Crown Prince." Mu Wuxuang raised her pale face and asked with tears in her eyes, "Can you tell me who brought you to this place? I'd like to know who I've been tricked by. Was it that slut Yun Luo Feng?" Gao Ling frowned when he heard Mu Wuxuang's question. He used to think that Mu Wuxuang was better than Yun Luo Feng. Now, aside from her outstanding powers, Mu Wuxuang could not be compared to Yun Luo Feng in any other way. What's more, Dr. Yun Luo Feng's status is not worse than Mu Wuxuang's. Especially since Mu Wuxuang could already sleep with anyone. Moreover, she had just served an old man. At this moment, Gao Ling had completely forgotten who caused Mu Wuxuang to fall into this situation. If it weren't for his selfishness, Mu Wuxuang wouldn't have lost his virginity. And because of this matter, his heart was filled with disgust towards Mu Wuxuang. He thought that she was not behaving like a woman and was having an affair here. Even though Gao Ling was thinking this, he did not show it on his face. An imperceptible light flashed across his eyes as he said, "This was not done by Yun Luo Feng. It was the Ghost Emperor." "Ghost Emperor?" Mu Wuxuang's body shook as he looked at Gao Ling in surprise. "You mean the Ghost Emperor who is known for his ruthlessness? Your Highness, how did you provoke such a person?" The Ghost Emperor was a legend on this continent. 3 years ago, the man known as the Ghost Emperor appeared before the eyes of the world. It was said that this Ghost Emperor was iron-blooded, cold and decisive. In these 3 years, many people had died by his hand. During this time, many righteous men had encircled and annihilated the Ghost Emperor in order to maintain peace on the mainland. Who would have thought that none of them would return? They had disappeared without a trace. It was because of this that the Ghost Emperor's name had spread to the ears of the world. Chapter 240. Wasn't there a saying that goes, "Everything under the heavens is yellow soil"? Yet this Ghost Emperor was someone who gave the royal family headaches. You still dare to ask me about this? Gao Ling's handsome face sank upon hearing this. Back then, when the Ghost Emperor's subordinates were dealing with me, they accused me of trying to snatch the Ghost Emperor's woman. I've always wanted to ask you, how did you manage to hook up with the Ghost Emperor? If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have suffered such a punishment. Mu Wuxuang's already shocked eyes widened even more. You're saying that the Ghost Emperor is interested in me? Gao Ling did not speak. His expression was extremely ugly. Every time he thought of the torture he had endured over the past few days, his heart would go crazy. Your Royal Highness, Mu Wuxuang gritted his teeth when he saw Gao Ling's ashen face. He rose to his feet and hugged the man in front of him. Your Royal Highness, don't worry, the person I love will always be you. Gao Ling's eyes flickered as he looked down at Mu Wuxuang. Now that I've told you about the Ghost Emperor's love for you, aren't you moved at all? Your Royal Highness, rumor has it that the Ghost Emperor has always been wearing a mask. No one has ever seen his true face. If he was truly handsome, he wouldn't have covered his face with a mask. Therefore, Wuxuang guessed that the Ghost Emperor must be so ugly that he can't be seen in public. How could he compare to your Royal Highness? As long as your Royal Highness doesn't give up on Wuxuang, Wuxuang will not leave your Royal Highness. A man as powerful as the Ghost Emperor would never want his woman to lose her virginity. Therefore, even though Mu Wuxuang's heart was moved for a moment, she quickly regained her composure. It was likely that the Ghost Emperor had not expected to drag her into this mess when he was dealing with Gao Ling. Now that she was no longer innocent, she could only cling on to Gao Ling as her last hope. Unfortunately, if she was still pure, she would have chosen to throw herself into the Ghost Emperor's arms instead of following a scumbag like Gao Ling. At least the Ghost Emperor's power was not just a little bit stronger than Gao Ling. From the beginning to the end, Mu Wuxuang never doubted Gao Ling's words. In her opinion, with her outstanding talent, it was only natural that the Ghost Emperor would like her. As for why the Ghost Emperor had never revealed his feelings to her, her explanation was that the Ghost Emperor was afraid of scaring her, so he had hidden his love for her. However, he was unwilling to let Gao Ling wander around in front of her, so he decided to attack Gao Ling. Wuxuang, it's good that you understand. Gao Ling's expression softened. You've suffered so much for me these past few days. When we return to the palace, I'll give you a title. Go back to the palace? Mu Wuxuang smiled bitterly. Your Highness, do you think the people in Bamboo House will let us go? Gao Ling's eyes flickered. Just now, Lady Chun looked for me. She said that as long as you serve a few spirit beasts tonight, she'll let us go tomorrow. The youth's words were like a bolt from the blue, causing Mu Wuxuang to raise her beautiful eyes in disbelief, her eyes filled with deep shock. Your Highness, you actually want me to serve the spirit beast? Was this the real reason why he had come looking for her today? And when he said that he was willing to marry her, was it so that she would suffer even more humiliation? Mu Wuxuang's body trembled slightly. Her snow-white face was filled with despair. She could endure it if he asked her to sell her body, but to serve the spirit beast, how could she endure it? Chapter 241. Wuxuang, Gao Ling pressed Mu Wuxuang's shoulder tightly. Listen to me, we can only seek revenge from the Ghost Emperor once we leave this place. If we stay in a place like this, we won't be able to be together for the rest of our lives. For the sake of our future, what's the big deal about sacrificing a little? A little impatience will spoil great plans. Don't you understand? You want me to serve a spiritual beast just for the sake of revenge? Mu Wuxuang no longer cared about pretending and screamed at the top of her lungs. Her body trembled as she said, Crown Prince, I'm your woman, your fiancé. Are you even human for doing this to me? Gao Ling stared at Mu Wuxuang in astonishment. Didn't you just say that you're willing to do anything for me? Besides, you've already lost your chastity. There's no difference between a human and a spiritual beast. Just bear with it and it'll all be over. In the beginning, even though she had lost her chastity, Mu Wuxuang had controlled the anger in her heart. She had only wanted to hold on to Gao Ling. She never thought that this man would be this cruel. He had actually sent a spiritual beast to humiliate her. Mu Wuxuang laughed icily. Then why can't you bear with it? Why do you want me to go? I've already compromised, why won't you let me go? Besides, you've already said that I'm the woman the Ghost Emperor has taken a liking to. Do you think he'll let you go after treating me like this? Gao Ling's face sank and he gripped Mu Wuxuang's wrist tightly. He tightened his grip and a red mark could be seen on the young girl's wrist. Mu Wuxuang, I knew that you were having an affair with the Ghost Emperor. Otherwise, you wouldn't be mentioning him now. You're just a slut who has lost your chastity. What right do you have to shout in front of me? I'm warning you, you'll have to go whether you want to or not. Mu Wuxuang's face turned pale from the pain. She stared hopelessly at the young man's handsome face. You're calling me a slut? Does that mean that everything you've said before was a lie? Gao Ling, you scum, don't forget that it was because of you that I lost my chastity. Now you're asking me to serve a spiritual beast, you. Slap. The crisp sound of a slap was heard and Mu Wuxuan's words came to an abrupt halt. Her eyes were bloodshot and she glared at Gao Ling with hatred. Gao Ling didn't even look at her. She was just a woman who had lost her virginity. What was there for him to miss? Although he still had some guilt towards Mu Wuxuan at first, but after a few days of calming down, the guilt in his heart has long disappeared, replaced by only anger. If it weren't for this bitch, the Ghost Emperor wouldn't have attacked him. From the beginning to the end, Gao Ling had assumed that the woman the Ghost Emperor had his eyes on was Mu Wuxuan and had never thought that it was Yun Luofeng. Therefore, Mu Wuxuan had to bear all of Gao Ling's hatred on behalf of Yun Luofeng. TSK, I really came at the right time to see such a good show. Suddenly, a seductive voice came from behind. Gao Ling's body trembled. He turned around and looked at the seductive woman who was standing at the door and smiled flatteringly. Chun Yang, Wuxuan has agreed. Will you keep your word and let us go tomorrow? Chun Yang's eyes flashed with disdain. Don't worry, I, Chun Yang, have always kept my word. Since I've said that I'll let you go, I'll definitely let you leave this place. However, whether you live or die after you leave this place has nothing to do with me. These two fellows have offended the Ghost Emperor and they still want to live the rest of their lives in peace? What a joke. If they had stayed in the bamboo loft, perhaps they could have dragged out an ignoble existence. But once they leave, what awaits them will be even more cruel torture. Chapter 242. Gao Ling's eyes lit up and his heart filled with ecstasy. As long as I can leave this place, I will make these people who had once humiliated me pay a painful price. Chun Yang glanced at the undisguised hatred on Gao Ling's face and her lips curled into a coquettish smile. Her beautiful eyes were filled with disdain as she said, "Enjoy your last night here. You may leave tomorrow." She then twisted her slender waist and walked out of the door in a flirtatious manner. After she left, Gao Ling also strode out. From the beginning to the end, he did not turn back to look at Mu Wuxuan. Nighttime. The night sky was like water and the faint moonlight shone through the curtains into the room, landing on the young girl's peerless face. The young girl sat on a chair as her fair, jade-like hand gently lifted the teacup in front of her. Her dark eyes stared fixedly at the night sky outside the window and did not look at the man behind her. Yin Xiao, how much do you know about the Bai family? The young girl lowered her eyes to conceal the coldness in her eyes as she remembered her encounter with the Bai family in the flowing gold country. Yin Xiao looked at the young girl sitting at the table. Over the years, the master of the Bai family has changed many times, but the young master of the Bai family has never changed. That person is Bai Su. Suddenly, a handsome and demonic face appeared in Yun Luofeng's mind. She narrowed her eyes. What do you mean? The master of the Bai family has changed many times, but there is only one Bai Su. Yin Xiao paused and continued, what I mean is, no matter who the master of the Bai family is, there can only be one Bai Su as the young master. In the Bai family, Bai Su is considered a rather special existence. Besides, it is said that the name of the Bai family's ancestor is also Bai Su. Hearing this, Yun Luofeng tapped her fingers gently on the table and fell into deep thought. After a long pause, she asked, apart from this, what else do you know? Yin Xiao fell silent for a moment before replying grimly, I will investigate. Previously, he had no interest in the Bai family's affairs. Since Yun Luofeng wanted to know, he would not be afraid of anyone investigating. All right. Yun Luofeng stood up and smiled lazily. Yin Xiao, I'm tired. I've already warmed the bed. Yun Xiao's eyes stared deeply at Yun Luofeng, her expression very serious. So, you can rest first. Yin Xiao, have you forgotten what I said before? Yun Luofeng took a few steps closer to Yun Xiao as the corners of his lips curled into a demonic and wanton smile. As your punishment, it's not enough for you to just warm my bed, you'll have to share my bed as well. After saying these words, Yun Luofeng lifted her hand and pushed Yun Xiao onto the large bed. Then, she pressed her body down and narrowed her eyes. You're not going to resist? You've said that you don't like to be pressed down by others, Yun Zhao's arms wrapped tightly around the young girl's soft body. So, in front of you, I'm willing to be pressed down by you. Between the two of them, there would always be an existence that would be suppressed. Since Yun Luofeng did not like to be suppressed, then what harm was there in going along with her? Who asked him to be the one pressing down on her? No matter how cold and heartless he appeared in the eyes of outsiders, in front of her, he was willing to spoil and protect her. He was even willing to be pressed down by her body, even if he would never be able to turn things around for the rest of his life. Yun Zhao's words inadvertently touched Yun Luofeng's heart, causing her heart to suddenly tremble at this moment. Chapter 243. Yun Zhao, why are you so good to me? Yun Luofeng lowered her eyes slightly and stared at the handsome and grim man beneath her. Her pitch-black eyes were filled with a demonic light. Because I want you to take responsibility. Take responsibility? Suddenly, Yun Luofeng remembered the second time they had met. This man had appeared in her room with a grim expression and had awkwardly said the word, take responsibility. You've seen the face under my mask. You need to take responsibility for me. Yun Zhao's eyes stared deeply at Yun Luofeng as she said these words seriously. Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a smile. I'm not the only one who's seen your face. Why do you have to find me? When they had first met, the man's mask had fallen off. She had indeed been shocked, but that was all. She never thought that she would end up entangled with this man. I only want you to take responsibility. There was no reason. Even though he had thrown off the Ghost Emperor mask and followed Yun Luofeng, causing many people to see his face, he only wanted her to take responsibility. Yun Luofeng narrowed her eyes. What if I don't want to take responsibility? Then, I'll take responsibility for you. The man's voice was as grim as ever, causing Yun Luofeng to be slightly stunned. Before she could react, a pair of thin, ice-cold lips pressed against her, blocking all her voice. If you don't want to take responsibility for me, that's fine. Then I'll take responsibility for you. No matter what, don't even think of leaving me by your side. A dangerous light seeped into Yun Luofeng's eyes. She raised her hand and violently pushed Yun Zhao's body away. However, the man hugged her tightly, making it impossible for her to push him away. Yun Zhao. Yun Luofeng furrowed her brows tightly and the dangerous light in her eyes intensified. Just as she was about to push the man away again, suddenly, the man's black eyes fiercely collided with hers, causing her heart to tremble violently. The man's eyes were no longer as grim as before. His black eyes clearly reflected her figure, causing her heart to involuntarily soften. Towards this man, she could never be angry. Yun Luofeng's hand slowly and gently landed on the man's chest. Once again, he tore off his clothes. The moonlight poured into the room and fell on the man's abdominal muscles. It was so perfect that people couldn't help but want to caress it. Of course, Yun Luofeng had indeed done so. Her fingers gently touched the man's abs, and the smile on her lips was devilishly charming and dangerous. Yun Zhao, I've said it before, sharing the same bed is your punishment. You're not allowed to touch me. Now that you've broken the rules, I'll give you an even greater punishment. Yun Luofeng only stopped when he felt the strangeness of the man's body. He moved his lips away from the man's and smiled evilly. I'm tired, so I'll rest first. After saying this, Yun Luofeng entered the warm blanket, no longer caring about the man burning with lust. The next day, the news spread throughout the entire Long Yuan country. It was said that His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, who had sold himself in the bamboo house, had returned. Mu Wuxuang from the Mu family had also returned. Actually, after finding out about Gao Ling and Mu Wuxuang's misfortune, the royal family and the Mu family had sent people to rescue them. However, the people they had sent had been blocked on the way and not a single one had returned. This was also why Gao Ling and Mu Wuxuang had only returned to Long Yuan country now. However, a few days after they returned, another piece of news quickly spread. Chapter 244. Gao Ling and Mu Wuxuang were getting married. When she heard the news, Yun Luofeng was leisurely lying on the chaise longue. She had just taken a sip of tea when she spat it out, splashing it all over Yun Zhao's face. Yun Xiao licked the tea that had splashed into her mouth and said in a low and hoarse voice, "It's very sweet." No matter what she said, Yun Xiao always had a serious look on her face. Her black eyes always stared earnestly and sincerely at Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng wiped the tea from her mouth, as if she had not heard Yun Zhao's words. She turned to look at Qing Yan, who was standing beside her reporting, and raised her eyebrows devilishly. "Gao Ling is getting married to Mu Wushuang. Is this true?" "My lady, it's absolutely true. Almost everyone in the imperial city knows about this." Hearing Qing Yan's report, the corners of Yun Luofeng's lips curled up. Mu Wushuang lost her innocence in the bamboo house. With Gao Ling's arrogant character, how could he be willing to marry her? But now, even if he has to wear a green hat, he still wants to marry Mu Wushuang? This matter is really worth pondering. Her fingers gently stroked her chin, a hint of contemplation flashing in her dark eyes. "My lady, do you think we should go and ruin this wedding?" Qing Yan's eyes shone brightly as she asked excitedly. Yun Luofeng stretched lazily and sat up from the chaise longue. She smiled devilishly. "Why should we ruin their wedding? Don't you think that these two people are a match made in heaven? A whore with a dog, forever. These two people were originally a match made in heaven. After ruining their wedding ceremony, they would go and harm others? She could not do such a thing." Yun Luofeng turned to look at Yun Xiao. "Do you think we should send a congratulatory gift on their wedding day?" Yun Xiao nodded and said coldly, "All right." No matter what she wanted to do, he would support her. And if she wanted to kill someone, he would also raise his sword for her. Yun Luofeng lowered her eyes slightly, hiding the cold glint in her eyes. "Mu family. Ever since you leaked information and caused Yun Yang and his wife to die in the battlefield, you are destined to die a horrible death." Gao Ling stood in the middle of the luxurious palace hall. His expression was extremely ugly as he stared at the middle-aged man seated high above. "Father, why do you still want me to marry Mu Wushuang? She has already lost her chastity, so what right does she have to be my wife?" He was a man, and a normal man at that. To him, being cuckolded by the woman he loved was a very embarrassing thing. Even if he personally pushed Mu Wushuang to others, he could not bear the fact that the other party was already dirty. "Son," Gao Tu glared icily at Gao Ling and scoffed, "You've made a mistake in this matter. You shouldn't have handed over Mu Wushuang. Mu Wushuang's identity is not simple. If those people find out about your actions, I'm afraid that you will drag the entire royal family down with you. The most important thing now is for you to marry Mu Wushuang and let her give birth to your Liner. Only then will you be able to protect your life." Jailing froze for a moment and asked in confusion, "Father, what do you mean by that? Mu Wushuang's identity is not simple? What is it about her that is not simple?" Gao Tu sighed deeply. "In the beginning, I favored imperial concubine Mu because I liked her very much. That year, I chose to side with the Mu family because of imperial concubine Mu. But a few years ago, I learned of something." Chapter 245. "Father, does Mu Wushuang have another identity?" Gao Ling paused for a moment, his brows furrowed as a sense of uneasiness crept into his heart. It's no wonder that when the Mu family lost face at the city gates, father still wanted him to marry Mu Wushuang. Is it because Mu Wushuang's identity isn't ordinary? He really wanted to know what was so special about Mu Wushuang's identity. There's nothing special about his identity. What's special is his mother's background, Gao Tu sneered. Her mother is from the Tian family. Tian family? Gao Ling's eyes revealed a hint of contemplation. "Father, I know of many powerful forces in the mainland, but I've never heard of this Tian family. I wonder what kind of background this Tian family has. Is it even more powerful than the Spirit Gate?" Gao Tu shook his head. "No, the Tian family is not powerful. Even in the entire mainland, it's only a third-rate family. And in the Tian family, the strongest cultivator is only at the Earth Spirit realm." Gao Ling became more and more confused. Since the Tian family is only a third-rate family, why is father so afraid of Mu Wushuang? Seeing Gao Ling's puzzled eyes, Gao Tu glanced at him lightly. "The reason why people fear the Tian family is because a few decades ago, the Tian family produced a perverted Tianya. Even if Tianya left the family a few decades ago and never returned, who can guarantee that after offending the Tian family, Tianya won't come out to settle the score? If it's just based on strength alone, Tianya isn't that frightening. What's truly frightening is Tianya's identity as the continent's #1 divine doctor. The number of experts he has saved is innumerable, and there are also many people who owe him favors. As long as he says the word, countless people are willing to sell their lives for him. Gao Tu's eyes showed a touch of admiration. Unfortunately, Tianya appears and disappears unpredictably. No one knows where he is. Imperial son, do you know why I want you to marry Mu Wuxuang? The continent's #1 divine doctor, even the medical pavilion has to give him some face. So when he heard this, Gao Ling's heart was filled with shock. He never thought that Mu Wuxuang would have a blood relationship with the continent's #1 divine doctor. Father, why haven't you known Mu Wuxuang's true identity and background for so many years? Gao Ling frowned slightly and asked, moreover, that old man Mu Xingqiu has kept this secret for so many years. His daughter-in-law has such a powerful background, but he didn't tell anyone? This was really not the old man's style of doing things. I reckon that even Mu Xingqiu doesn't know about this. A few years ago, when Mu Wuxuang's parents were still alive, I accidentally heard this secret from a secret guard in the palace. Gao Tu's lips curled up into a smile, his expression dignified as he said, that's why I want you to marry Mu Wuxuang no matter what. If he could form a relationship with the continent's #1 genius doctor, then what would Yun Luofeng amount to? How is she qualified to be compared to that person? Anne. Gao Tu paused and continued to sneer. I also learned that after the Tian family learned of Mu Wuxuang's medical talent, they wanted to bring her back to the Tian family and train her to be the second Tianya. And this is the best opportunity for you to enter the Tian family. Mu Wuxuang's medical talent was incomparable to Yun Luofeng's, but in the eyes of others, he was still a genius. This was why Gao Tu would rather let the royal family be cuckolded than let Gao Ling marry Mu Wuxuang. Chapter 246. Gao Ling's heart began to beat faster. If he could curry favor with the godly doctor, perhaps his illness could be cured. At the thought of this, his eyes flashed with understanding. Imperial father, I know what to do. Don't worry, I will make good use of this opportunity. Gao Tu nodded and patted Gao Ling on the shoulder. Remember, as long as we can curry favor with the Tian family, the royal family will be freed from the spirit sex control. However, based on what you've done to Mu Wuxuang, it's impossible for him to forgive you completely. You must make Mu Wuxuang pregnant with your child as soon as possible. A fierce glint flashed across his eyes. Gao Tu's eyes were filled with caution as he coldly commanded. Gao Ling cupped his fists and replied respectfully, yes, Imperial father. If he had known that Mu Wuxuang was related to Tianya, he would never have handed her over. Unfortunately, he had not known about this and made such a huge mistake. However, it's not too late for him to make up for it now. Imperial father, about Yun Luofeng. Gao Ling narrowed his eyes. Can you make her my concubine? Gao Tu paused for a moment and said, if Mu Wuxuang has no objections, you can take her as your concubine. No matter what, Mu Wuxuang is a member of the Tian family. Whoever you want to take as your concubine, you'll have to ask for her opinion. Imperial father, I understand. Gao Ling curled the corners of his lips, his eyes filled with pride. Ever since he had done that to Mu Wuxuang could not possibly still love him. The only reason why she had agreed to marry him was because apart from him, no one else would marry a woman who had lost her innocence. Since there was no love between them, why would Mu Wuxuang have any objections to him taking her as his concubine? What's more, Mu Wuxuang hated Yun Luofeng. If Yun Luofeng became his concubine, wouldn't she be at Mu Wuxuang's mercy? As such, she could not possibly object. With the Tian family in charge, no matter how arrogant Yun Luofeng was, he would not have the guts to disobey. The more Gao Ling thought about it, the more pleased he became. His shameless expression was unmistakable. Every time he thought of the young girl's arrogance, he wanted nothing more than to press her under his body and crush her arrogant aura. As soon as Yun Luofeng entered the elegant hall of the tea house, he heard a commotion in front of him. He could even faintly hear the furious voice of an old man. You unscrupulous merchants actually used shoddy tea leaves to deceive this old man. Do you think you can swindle me just because I'm a foreigner? After the old man finished speaking, the waiter's mocking voice rang out, Old thing, who are you calling shoddy? Do you know who owns this tea house? You'll be scared to death if I tell you. Our restaurant was opened by imperial concubine Mu's nephew, the eldest young master of the Mu family. Do you think that our eldest young master would deceive you? The young master of the Mu Jia? Mu Wuchen? Yun Luofeng was slightly startled and stopped in his tracks. His black eyes flickered with a flickering light. This restaurant was opened by Mu Wuchen? Qin Yan blinked her eyes. I think so. Everyone in Long Yuan country knew about this, but because Yun Luofeng did not pay much attention to this, he did not know that Mu Wuchen was the owner of this fragrant Wind tea house. Hearing this, the young girl raised the corners of her lips and a demonic smile appeared on her peerlessly beautiful face. I didn't expect to find the Mu family in a random tea house. Unfortunately, I don't want the Mu family to have an easy time. Now that I've come across such a situation, how can I not get involved? After saying that, Yun Luofeng stepped forward. Chapter 247. At this moment, in the main hall of the tea house, the little old man's face was full of anger. His meticulously combed hair was standing up in anger. If it weren't for the fact that he wanted to maintain his demeanor, he would have already stepped forward and beaten the waiter up. Doesn't this kid know that he is the ancestor of the world of deceiving people? I don't care who your boss is, get him out here. What imperial concubine Mu, this old man has never heard of such a person. The waiter looked at the old man from head to toe and shouted towards the crowd in the hall, which family does this old man belong to? Hurry up and take him away. How dare he say that our family's young master is a swindler, he is simply tired of living. If you don't take him away, don't blame me for not respecting the old and loving the young. The surrounding crowd sighed and looked at the old man with sympathy. Is this old man stupid? He even dared to offend the Prime Minister's family. Who doesn't know that the Prime Minister's family is in the limelight in Long Yuan country? Even if Mu Wuxuang lost his innocence, the royal family still intends to make him the crown prince's wife. This kind of love, only the Mu family can enjoy, even the general's family is far from it. Just as the old man's anger was about to erupt, a hand stretched out from the side and snatched the teacup from his hand. Gently sniffing the tea, she raised her eyebrows and said, This is indeed the worst tea. The old man froze for a moment, turned his head, and saw a pair of black eyes that seemed to be smiling but not smiling. At this time, the girl gently shook the teacup in her hand, her lips curved into a charming and lazy smile. This girl's age was not very old, only about 15 years old, but she looked very calm, without the pampered and impetuous temperament of young people. Oh, I was wondering who it was, so it's the eldest daughter of the Yun family. TSK, since when did the eldest daughter of the Yun family know about tea? Who in the entire Long Yuan country doesn't know that the tea in our tea house is the best? Why don't you ask your own conscience before saying this? Can you really take out such good tea? The waiter obviously recognized Yun Luofeng's voice, and said with a contemptuous tone. A young lady who only knows medicine, since when did she know how to make tea? This kind of thing is not something that a young lady like her can come into contact with. Furthermore, in the entire Long Yuan country, there wasn't a single tea house that could compare to the tea leaves of the Mu family. Although they had taken out the most inferior tea leaves on account of the fact that this elder was a foreigner, even the most inferior tea leaves were not something that the Yun family could take out. One must know that good tea could not be bought with money. He also needed to rely on all kinds of connections. Yun Luofeng smiled and looked at the waiter. If I can take out better tea leaves than the Mu family, then you have to announce to the entire Long Yuan country that your Wind Fragrance tea house is selling shoddy tea leaves to scam outsiders. The waiter was stunned. Even though he didn't think that Yun Luofeng could bring out better tea leaves, this wasn't something he could decide. Just as the waiter was in a dilemma, a cold voice suddenly rang out and landed in the quiet hall. All right, I agree to your request. On the second floor, a cold and arrogant man slowly walked down the stairs. His face was indifferent and his cold eyes stared straight at Yun Luofeng. His tea leaves were plucked from the snowy mountains. No one in the entire Long Yuan nation could compare to his tea leaves. Just based on the Yun family, how could they take out better tea leaves than his? Was this woman joking? Chapter 248. Mu Wuchen, looking at the man walking down the stairs, Yun Luofeng curled his lips and said, "Since you've agreed, I can now compete with your wind fragrance tea house. Since there are so many people here, they can be our witnesses." Mu Wuchen's eyes turned cold and he sneered in his heart. He had already occupied several places that produced famous tea in Long Yuan country. Where else could Yun Luofeng go to pick better tea leaves? Therefore, he had to win this competition. "Men, bring the Snow Mountain white tea." After understanding this point, Mu Wuchen coldly ordered, "Everyone present, today, you will be the judge of the outcome of this battle." In order to embarrass Yun Luofeng, he did not hold back and brought out the best tea leaves in the tea house. When the others heard the words Snow Mountain white tea, their eyes lit up. They did not expect that they would be so lucky to be able to taste the Snow Mountain white tea. This Snow Mountain white tea was the treasure of the Wind Fragrance Tea House. It was hard to buy a cup of it. It was said that this Snow Mountain white tea was not only fragrant and delicious, but also had the effect of strengthening the body. Not long after, the tea house's staff came out from the back of the hall with a teapot. He filled everyone's cup with tea and slowly retreated with the empty teapot. Everyone impatiently tasted the Snow Mountain white tea. When the tea entered their mouths, a refreshing fragrance filled their mouth and teeth, leaving an endless aftertaste. "This Snow Mountain white tea tastes good. I think we don't have to taste Miss Yun's tea anymore. With such a good Snow Mountain white tea, no matter how good her tea is, it can't be compared." That's right. Today I'm so lucky to be able to taste the Snow Mountain white tea. I'm already very satisfied with this trip. Everyone was full of praise. They felt that there was no need for the competition. Yun Luofeng could not possibly bring out a better tea than the Snow Mountain white tea. Mu Wuchen looked at Yun Luofeng, who was expressionless, and slightly raised the corner of his lips. "Everyone, this competition was personally proposed by Yun Luofeng. If she doesn't bring out the tea leaves, it will be too unreasonable. Moreover, I want to know, what gives her the confidence to come here and clamor? Of course, if she's willing to admit defeat, I'm willing to let her go." Haha. Yun Luofeng looked at Mu Wuchen, then turned his gaze to the white-haired old man at the side. "Do you know how to make tea?" The white-haired old man chuckled. "It's not that I'm boasting, but no one in this world can compare to my tea brewing skills." If that's the case, Yun Luofeng did not give the little old man a chance to continue boasting and directly interrupted him. "Then I'll leave the matter of brewing tea to you." After saying this, Yun Luofeng took out a bag of tea leaves from his pocket. "Little girl, what tea is this?" The little old man took the tea leaves and his eyes lit up. Even though he hadn't drunk the tea yet, he could tell from the aroma of the tea leaves that this was definitely a top-grade tea. It was much better than that Snow Mountain white tea. Moreover, the old man did not think that there was anything good about the Snow Mountain white tea. There was already a large pile of this tea leaves in his little room. They were all gifted to him by those who had been treated by him after they found out that he liked to taste tea. Unfortunately, he had disliked the quality of the tea leaves and had not even taken a sip. Hearing the little old man's words, Yun Luofeng was slightly taken aback. He frowned slightly and replied, "I've named this tea leaf spirit tea. On this mainland, there is only one portion of it." Chapter 249. Mu Wuchen looked at Yun Luofeng, and a mocking smile appeared on his lips. "Spiritual tea? With my many years of understanding of the way of tea, I've never heard of any spiritual tea. If you think that you can't beat me, you can just admit defeat and save some face. For someone like you who casually took out a bag of tea leaves to fool me, in the end, you're the one who's going to lose face." The little old man's eyes were filled with disdain. Someone like Mu Wuchen dared to claim to know about the way of tea. He had long heard of the reputation of the Wind Fragrance Tea House, but he did not expect it to be so mediocre. Even a tea like the Snow Mountain white tea had become the treasure of this tea house. When the little old man looked at Yun Luofeng, his expression immediately changed. His wrinkled face was like a blooming chrysanthemum, extremely radiant. "Little girl, I've already brewed the tea for you, but the fragrance of this tea is unbearable. Can I have a taste first?" "Sure." The corners of Yun Luofeng's lips curled up slightly, and he smiled evilly. The little old man's eyes lit up. He picked up the teacup in front of him, brought it to his mouth, and gently took a sip. With this sip, he felt the fragrance overflow into his mouth, and through his internal organs, making him feel extremely refreshed. "Good tea, this is definitely the finest quality tea, and the best tea I have tasted in the past few decades." The little old man's eyes were shining, his gaze fixed upon Yun Luofeng. "Little girl, where did you buy this tea from? Can you tell me?" Yun Luofeng shrugged his shoulders. "I've said it before, this is the only tea." "What a pity," the little old man sighed regretfully. "Such a good tea, if I never get to drink it again, it will be the regret of my life. However, my trip to Long Yuan country today was not in vain. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known that there was such a good tea in this world." Mu Wuchen glanced at the little old man who was sighing alone, and snorted coldly. "Are you done with your self-directed show? Don't think that I don't know that the two of you are in cahoots, and your goal is to destroy the place. It's not enough for you to taste this tea, someone else has to judge it. Someone, pour this so-called spiritual tea for everyone here." He still didn't think that with Yun Luofeng's strength, he could take out better tea leaves than him. Therefore, the final result of this match would inevitably be Yun Luofeng's crushing defeat. "Young Master Mu, there's no need for such a boring competition. How could Miss Yun take out tea leaves that are comparable to the Snow Mountain white tea? Wasn't the result already obvious? However, for young Master Mu's sake, we should give her face and taste her tea." After this person spoke, the others all voiced their agreement. In the end, no one thought that Yun Luofeng would be able to win. Yun Luofeng turned a blind eye to the mocking tone of the crowd. His peerlessly beautiful face lit up with a demonic smile. "By the way, I forgot to tell you about the effects of this spiritual tea. Not only can this spiritual tea strengthen the body, all you need to do is take a sip of the tea and it will eliminate any symptoms such as headaches and fever. It can even make one's mind exceptionally clear. It's even more useful for those who stay up all night." Because his family's old man liked to taste tea, a few months ago, Yun Luofeng had plucked a tea tree from the spiritual herb field in the divine grimoire space. The tea tree in the herb field had been nourished by spiritual energy and had naturally turned into spiritual tea. However, the tea leaves that Yun Luofeng had taken out were of the lowest quality and could only be used to treat headaches and fever. She had kept the truly perfect tea leaves for Master Yun. If one were to drink the spiritual tea brewed from these tea leaves, not only would it be able to treat illnesses, it could also increase a cultivator's spiritual power. Chapter 250. Very soon, the waiter filled everyone's teacups with tea. Instantly, the entire tea house was filled with a fragrant aroma. Just this aroma alone was enough to make everyone feel incomparably refreshed. It was as if even their shins and bones had become extremely relaxed. Even so, they still did not believe that this spiritual tea had the effect that Yun Luofeng had mentioned. Hence, they did not take her words seriously. Even the way they sipped their tea was very casual. Some of them, for the sake of showing off in front of Mu Wuchen, wore an obvious look of disdain on their faces. Yun Luofeng, Mu Wuchen glanced at Yun Luofeng and the corners of his lips curled into a complacent smile. "If we were to compete in medical skills, I, Mu Wuchen, would willingly admit defeat. Unfortunately, I'm quite clear about the capabilities of your General Yun's mansion, so this time, you will lose without a doubt." However, just as Mu Wuchen had spoken, a gasp of surprise suddenly rang out from the tea house. What's going on? I've caught a cold today and my nose isn't working very well. After drinking this cup of spiritual tea, I feel as if my nose has suddenly cleared up. Could it be that this spiritual tea can really cure illnesses? Damn! My leg has always had an old ailment. Just now, it was still a little painful, but now, the pain has completely disappeared. Am I dreaming? There's nothing wrong with my body. It's just that after drinking this spiritual tea, I feel refreshed and my mind has become very clear. This is not something that the Snow Mountain white tea can compare to. The complacent smile on Mu Wuchen's lips suddenly froze. His cold gaze shot towards the crowd before he quickly walked towards the waiter under the watchful eyes of the crowd. He snatched the teapot from the waiter's hand, poured a cup of tea and poured it into his mouth. His actions were very crude and completely lacked the elegance that he usually showed when sipping tea. When the tea had filled his mouth and teeth, his expression changed several times before finally turning completely pale. He stared at Yun Luofeng with a gaze filled with unwillingness and anger. However, in the end, all his anger turned into one sentence: I admit defeat. Looking at Mu Wuchen's deathly pale face, Yun Luofeng curled the corners of his lips. Since you've admitted defeat, don't forget the conditions you've promised me. I'll wait for the fragrance of Wind Tea House to be completely ruined. In fact, her purpose in coming to this tea house was to sell these defective tea leaves. After all, to her, the things she prepared for her grandfather had to be the best. She would never give such defective tea leaves to her grandfather. Who would have thought that she would be so lucky? She randomly walked into a tea house, and it turned out to be owned by the Mu family. Don't worry, Mu Wuchen can still afford to lose. Mu Wuchen snorted coldly and said expressionlessly. That's right, Yun Luofeng seemed to have thought of something and smiled evilly. My tea leaves are a little expensive. For the sake of this bet with you, I've wasted so many tea leaves. I'll settle this debt with you. 1 tael of tea leaves was equivalent to 100,000 taels of silver. He had spent a total of 10 taels of silver, which was equivalent to 1 million taels of silver. When the time comes, send it directly to the general's mansion. You. Mu Wuchen's face suddenly darkened, his cold eyes filled with anger. Yun Luofeng, don't push your luck. The most expensive tea leaves on the mainland are only worth 10,000 taels of silver. You're actually asking for 100,000 taels of silver? Are your tea leaves made from immortal medicine? Yun Luofeng glanced at Mu Wuchen from the corner of his eye. Whether it's worth this price or not, you'll have to ask the others. Chapter 251. The young girl had just finished speaking when a voice suddenly rang out from within the tea house. Miss Yun, do you still have any more spiritual tea for sale? Give me 10 taels. How can 10 taels be enough for this kind of fine tea? I want a caddy. Prime Minister Mu's household was indeed very powerful, but this spiritual tea could cure all kinds of illnesses. It could even cure such stubborn old illnesses. If one drank this spiritual tea for a long period of time, they might become immune to all kinds of illnesses. Compared to offending Prime Minister Mu, they were more afraid of encountering the torment of illness. Furthermore, with Prime Minister Mu's status, he would not brazenly make things difficult for them. This was why they dared to say such things in front of Mu Wuchen. But their words completely angered the little old man. He hurriedly stood in front of Yun Luofeng with his hands on his hips, glaring angrily at these excited people. Didn't you hear what she said just now? There's only one portion of these tea leaves, there's no more. Besides, even if there were, I would buy them all. It's not your turn to buy them. It was obvious that the last sentence was the old man's true thoughts. This kind of fine tea leaves, there was only so much of it in the entire mainland. If Yun Luofeng really had more of these tea leaves, he would buy them all no matter how much he had to pay. How could it be their turn? Hearing this, the crowd calmed down and sighed, their eyes full of pity. Just as their faces were filled with disappointment, the young girl's demonic voice slowly rang out. There is indeed only one portion of spiritual tea, but I did not say how many caddies there are in this portion. However, one thing is certain, in this entire world, only I have spiritual tea here. The little old man's eyes brightened and he hurriedly turned to look at Yun Luofeng. Even his breathing was a little hurried. What you said is true. You still have this kind of fine tea here. Yun Luofeng nodded lightly, that's right. 100,000 taels of silver, no bargaining. Quick, give me 100 caddies. Pfft. The little servant girl, Qing Yan, was originally standing silently by Yun Luofeng's side. Who knew that when she heard the little old man's words, she almost spat out a mouthful of blood. She looked at the little old man strangely. Of course, the one who wanted to vomit blood even more was Mu Wuchen. He had just said that Yun Luofeng's spiritual tea was too expensive, and this little old man said to give him 100 caddies. Wasn't this behavior the same as slapping his face? In an instant, Mu Wuchen's face darkened, so dark that it could almost drip water. Do you think this spirit tea is cabbage? 50 kilograms? Yun Luofeng swept his gaze over the little old man, his eyebrows lifting slightly. I can sell you at most half a kilogram. I will sell the remaining half a kilogram to the others here. These people's words had undoubtedly offended Mu Wuchen. As such, how could she not sell the tea leaves to them? In any case, these were all defective tea leaves. She kept the real top-grade tea for the old man. No one had expected that Yun Luofeng would still care about them. They looked at her with gratitude. One had to know that it was the same no matter who sold these tea leaves to. Since this old man could open his mouth and want to buy 100 caddies, his identity was definitely not simple. But not only did Yun Luofeng not sell all of the spirit tea to this old man, he even left some for them. 1 caddy. Isn't that too little? The little old man looked at Yun Luofeng pitifully. Why don't you sell me 1.5 caddies? I'll owe you a favor. How about that? Yun Luofeng thought about it and nodded slightly. All right. But before that, I want Fragrance Tea House to pay the bill first. Wasting so much of my spirit tea, how can I swallow this loss? She, Yun Luofeng, could swallow anything except losing out. Chapter 252. Mu Wuchen's face was ashen. If he had refused to pay the bill today, who knows how many unpleasant rumors would have spread. Therefore, faced with Yun Luofeng's shameless request, he suppressed the anger in his heart and said in a cold voice, Yun Luofeng, I hope you remember what you've done today. I won't let you get away with this. Yun Luofeng curled the corners of his lips as he stared at Mu Wuchen's cold face. Even if I don't demand payment from you, you won't let me get away with it. So what if I make another enemy out of you? Good, very good. Mu Wuchen gritted his teeth hatefully and his handsome face was icy cold. When the time comes, I will send money and an invitation to my sister's wedding to your residence. After all, you've been in love with the crown prince for so many years. The Mu family will send you an invitation no matter what. Hearing this, the crowd sighed incessantly. Yun Luofeng's love for the crown prince was no secret in Long Yuan country. But now, only someone from Prime Minister Mu's residence would dare to mention this to her face. Furthermore, he had even used Mu Wuchuan and the crown prince's wedding to provoke her. However, after hearing Mu Wuchen's provocative words, Yun Luofeng only smiled evilly. Do you think that I would be interested in someone like Gao Ling, who has been oppressed by countless men? Only someone like Mu Wuchuan, who has also sold his body in the bamboo house, would accept him. In other words, both Gao Ling and Mu Wuchuan were goods that could be ridden by tens of thousands of men. Perhaps the two of them had even served the same customer together. Yun Luofeng. Mu Wuchen's expression changed completely and a cold light flashed in his eyes. I'm warning you, leave some leeway in case we meet again in the future. Don't go overboard with your words, it won't do you any good. The corners of Yun Luofeng's lips curled up and he smiled lazily. I'm sorry, I don't plan on meeting you again in the future. Mu Wuchen was so angry that his entire body was trembling. He felt that if he were to continue speaking, he would be angered to death by this damned girl. At the thought of this, he fiercely flung his sleeves and gritted his teeth. Yun Luofeng, I hope you remember what you've said today. If I ever see you again, don't blame me for being rude to you. After saying this, Mu Wuchen turned around and was about to leave. However, just as he took a step forward, a demonic voice rang out from behind him. Did I let you go? Mu Wuchen's footsteps paused. He clenched his fists tightly, his back facing Yun Luofeng. There was an uncontrollable rage in his chest. Yun Luofeng, what exactly do you want? Nothing much. Yun Luofeng crossed her arms across her chest, her body half leaning on the handrail of the stairs. She lazily narrowed her eyes. It's just that my servant girl's hands are a bit itchy, and she lacks a human punching bag for her to use. So, I can only trouble you. Yun Luofeng. Looking at the languid girl, Mu Wuchen's anger could no longer be controlled, and it suddenly erupted. This damned girl actually dared to look down on people like this. He actually wanted her to be a human punching bag for a maidservant? If he didn't teach this stinky girl a lesson today, how could he, Mu Wuchen, survive in the mainland in the future? Yun Luofeng, you are courting death. Boom! His fist brought with it a fierce gust of wind, like a tornado, and instantly arrived in front of Yun Luofeng. His powerful fist was aimed at Yun Luofeng's nose, and his eyes were filled with viciousness. Chapter 253. The corners of Yun Luofeng's lips were curled into a smile the entire time. Her jet-black eyes stared fixedly at the incoming fist. Her peerlessly beautiful face showed no sign of fear and was as steady as Mount Tai. Whoosh! Abruptly, a petite figure landed beside Yun Luofeng, deftly catching Mu Wuchen's fist that was flying towards him. Then, the crowd heard a clear and crisp sound, followed by a shrill wail. Bang! Qing Yan's palm landed on Mu Wuchen's chest, causing his body to be fiercely sent flying. His body violently smashed against the wall of the tea house. In an instant, the already unstable wall turned into a pile of rubble, burying his body. The crowd was shocked. They never thought that the eldest son of Prime Minister Mu's mansion would be weaker than a servant girl of the general's mansion. This was equivalent to slapping Prime Minister Mu in the face. Under the crowd's shocked gaze, Mu Wuchen crawled to his feet in a sorry state. He glared hatefully at Yun Luofeng and said angrily, Yun Luofeng, I've already promised to fulfill my promise and send the money for the spiritual tea to the general's mansion. What right do you have to raise your hand against me? Yun Luofeng crossed her arms in front of her chest and glanced sideways at Mu Wuchen, who had an ugly expression on his face. Since I'm known as the #1 hedonist of Long Yuan country, I don't need a reason to hit anyone. If I want to hit someone, I'll hit them. What can you do to me? The young girl's voice was egotistical and arrogant and her eyes were filled with insolence. Even if I hit you, what can you do to me? Who in this world would be able to say such a thing so matter-of-factly? Mu Wuchen swept a gloomy look at Yun Luofeng and patted the dust off his body. His face was full of malice as he said, You're good. Let's go. He then took one last look at the languid young girl before he led the Mu family members and hurriedly left. He was afraid that if he stayed any longer, this woman would make him stay. Obviously, this time, Yun Luofeng did not stop him. She stretched lazily and said evilly, Qing Yan, let's go. Wait a minute. Seeing that Yun Luofeng was about to leave, the little old man immediately became anxious and hurriedly rushed forward to stop Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng's footsteps paused slightly, and he raised his eyebrows slightly. If you want to buy spirit tea, go to the Yun family tomorrow afternoon. I don't have that many tea leaves with me right now. No, the little old man stood in front of Yun Luofeng, his wrinkled old face smiling like a flower. Little girl, I want to treat you to a meal. I wonder if you would be willing to do me the honor? Not interested. Girl, I'll give you 10 million gold coins. How about you have a meal with me? From what happened just now, she could already tell that this girl was definitely a money grubber. If she wanted her to do her a favor, it was impossible for her not to pay a price. Yun Luofeng swept an evil look at her. I didn't think that you would still be so lecherous at such an old age. If you want someone to accompany you to a meal, walk straight down this street and you'll find a brothel. The women there only ask for 1,000 taels. If it's just a simple meal, 100 taels would be enough. Seeing that Yun Luofeng had misunderstood his words, the little old man's elderly face flushed red. However, his tone of voice was filled with complacency. How could such a pure and innocent person like me possibly go to a place like that? Don't judge me just because I'm over 50 years old, I'm still a virgin. Chapter 254. Hearing this, Yun Luofeng looked at the little old man with a faint smile. You're over 50 years old and no woman likes you. Is it because your IQ is low or your body is low? At first, the little old man did not understand the meaning behind Yun Luofeng's words. After pondering for a while, he suddenly understood. His face turned green with anger. Who said my body is low? No. No, my body and IQ are both good. If it wasn't for those bastards who forced me to marry a woman I didn't love, causing the person I loved to misunderstand me, I wouldn't have been single for so many years. If it wasn't for those bastards, he would have married and had children long ago. This was also the reason why he had never returned home after so many years. Is that so? Yun Luofeng raised an eyebrow. No matter what conditions you propose, come to the Yun family tomorrow afternoon to buy the spiritual tea. No one can get it from me. Qing Yan, let's go. Yes, Mississippi, Qing Yan respectfully complied, and quickly followed behind Yun Luofeng. At the entrance of the tea house, the little old man stared at the master and servant as they left. His eyes flashed with an unnoticeable light. Godly doctor, so you've really come to Long Yuan country. Suddenly, a voice rang out, causing the little old man to regain his senses. He frowned as he looked at the lady in red standing in front of him. You must be Fangya from the medical pavilion? Fangya covered her mouth and laughed. I didn't expect the godly doctor to still remember me. Our pavilion leader mentioned you a while ago, saying that your whereabouts are uncertain and that he didn't even have the chance to visit you. Now that Elder Rong has heard that the godly doctor has come to Long Yuan country, he specially sent me to look for you. Look for me? The little old man furrowed his brows. Why does he want to look for me? I'm not interested. To him, there was nothing more interesting than the spiritual tea in Yun Luofeng's hands. Godly doctor, our Elder Rong has recently found a talented young lady and intends to recommend her to you. That lady is extremely talented and I believe that you will be very satisfied. Oh. The little old man replied in a lukewarm tone. Perhaps in the past, he had wanted to find a genius to pass on his mantle to, but now, after meeting Yun Luofeng, he suddenly discovered that he was very interested in this little girl. Especially since this little girl had such peerless tea leaves in her hands. Also, Fangya was silent for a while before saying, Godly doctor, a few days ago, we received news that a few important people from the Tian family had come to Long Yuan country. The reason is unknown, so Elder Rong wanted me to find out more from you. The little old man sneered. This old man has nothing to do with the people of the Tian family, and this old man has not been home for decades. Their matters have nothing to do with me. A few decades ago, he could only be considered one of the more outstanding geniuses in the Tian family. As for the Tian family who always liked to control others, they actually wanted to control his fate, forcing him to marry a woman he didn't love. At that time, he already had a woman he loved. Who knew that those bastards from the Tian family would actually drug him and even let the woman chosen by the Tian family lie beside him, causing his beloved woman to misunderstand and leave him in a fit of anger. Because of this, he also left the Tian family for a few decades. In these few decades, he was no longer that young man who could be bullied by anyone. He had already grown into a truly strong martial artist, and his name had shaken the entire continent. Hence, after he became famous, the Tian family was filled with regret. They had sent people out several times to search for his whereabouts, hoping to persuade him to return to the Tian family. Chapter 255. Thinking of the past, the old man gritted his teeth in hatred. If not for the fact that the Tian family had raised him, he would have destroyed the Tian family long ago. But even if he let the Tian family go, it did not mean that he would meddle in their affairs. Sir Godly Doctor, the genius I told you about. Fangya carefully looked at the old man, thinking about how to persuade the Godly Doctor to meet Yun Luofeng. Although Elder Rong had long guessed that Yun Luofeng was the disciple of the old man, it was just a guess without any concrete evidence. That was why he sent Fangya here. The purpose was to let the two of them meet to verify whether his guess was correct. Not interested, the old man waved his hand. This old man has met someone more fun. To this old man, no genius can compare to that girl. Fangya was startled, her heart filled with regret. She had wanted to use this opportunity to verify whether Yun Luofeng was his disciple. If not, with Yun Luofeng's talent, he could totally be his disciple. She did not expect that the Godly Doctor would not give her this opportunity. Godly Doctor, according to what Elder Rong knows, the people from the Tian family will arrive in Long Yuan country in 2 days. That's why Elder Rong asked me to inform them. If the people from the Tian family see you, they will definitely pester you. If the Tian family had not done such a thing to the old man, the status of the Tian family in the mainland would be unparalleled. It was a pity that the Tian family was courting death. Otherwise, they would not have lost such a huge support. They had already hurt the old man's heart. With his temper, how would he be willing to meet the Tian family? If it was not for the fact that he had not forgiven the Tian family for the past few decades, he would have returned to the Tian family. This old man will remember your kindness. The old man paused before continuing. Before the Tian family arrives, I will leave Long Yuan country. I will not give them a chance to see me. Fang Ye smiled. Using a piece of news to exchange for the old man's gratitude, this news was worth it. General's mansion. In the backyard, the young girl lazily leaned against the pavilion, her slender fingers stroking the gold-seeking rat in her palm. Her lips curled into a smile. You're growing really fast, little guy. It's no wonder I've used so many elixirs to cultivate you. I hope you won't let me down. Ji. Milk Tea called out twice, and her big round eyes turned around. Suddenly, she felt someone else's aura, and hurriedly squeezed into the girl's wide sleeve, revealing only her small head. Yun Luofeng lowered his eyes and didn't even look at the person in front of him. His tone seemed to be filled with disapproval. I wonder why the fourth prince has come to find me? If you want us to work together, I can only tell you that I alone am more than enough to deal with Long Yuan nation. Gao Xiaochen waved his folding fan. His smile was elegant and gentle. His slightly narrowed eyes shone with a fox-like light. This prince is here to inform you of the situation. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows, waiting for his next answer. Gao Xiaochen could tell what the girl wanted to say from the way she raised her eyebrows. He smiled and said, a few days ago, I overheard the conversation between my father and Jailing. It is said that Mu Wushuang is a member of the Tian family. Tian family? Yun Luofeng's gaze finally landed on Gao Xiaochen. Her tone was as lazy as ever. Is the Tian family very powerful? Chapter 256. The Tian family is more powerful than the imperial family, but it can't be compared to the spiritual sect. The most powerful person in the Tian family is only a low-level earth spirit. However, because the Tian family has a miracle doctor whose name shakes the mainland, no one dares to provoke the Tian family. Gao Xiaochen's lips curled into a smile. That's why I'm here to tell you this. Yun Luofeng raised an eyebrow. What cultivation level is Tianya at? Gao Xiaochen paused for a moment before he slowly replied, I'm not too sure about Tianya's cultivation level. I only know that his medical skills are superb and his whereabouts are uncertain. I've also heard that he hasn't returned to the Tian family for over 10 years. That's why I'm not too sure about his situation. Alright, I understand. Yun Luofeng swept his gaze across Gao Xiaochen. I'm very grateful that you've told me this. But I don't believe that you're doing this out of kindness. If I'm not mistaken, you want me to ruin Mu Wushuang and Jailing's wedding, so that Jailing can't curry favor with the Tian family, so that the position of crown prince will fall into your hands, right? Gao Xiaochen did not expect Yun Luofeng to see through his inner thoughts so easily. He paused for a moment before his lips curled into a smile. Xiao Fenger, you're too smart. That's right, I can't accept this. Gao Ling has already been humiliated by a group of men in the bamboo house, causing the imperial family of Long Yuan country to lose face. Even so, my imperial father did not remove him from the position of crown prince. How can I accept this? Besides being the legitimate son of the imperial family, how else can Gao Ling be the crown prince? The man no longer concealed his inner unwillingness. His pair of fox-like eyes revealed a sinister glint. If it wasn't for Mu Wushuang, my imperial father would have removed him from the position of crown prince long ago. Because in the entire imperial family, only Gao Ling is willing to marry Mu Wushuang. Based on Mu Wushuang's status, whoever marries her will be the crown prince, even if Gao Ling's reputation is in ruins. No matter how tempting the position of crown prince is, he would never marry a woman like Mu Wushuang who has lost her chastity. Otherwise, he would be cuckolded countless times. Gao Ling was the only one who would do anything to marry Mu Wuxuang, even if she was pregnant with someone else's child. You're wrong. An evil light flashed across Yun Luofeng's eyes. The position of the crown prince is not for the emperor to decide. Only the spiritual sect has the right to decide who the crown prince will be. Not to mention the fact that Gao Ling only went to the bamboo house to sell himself. Even if he was raped by a dog, the position of crown prince would still be his. In the entire Long Yuan nation, he was the only one with a low IQ. Easy to control? Whether it was Gao Xiaochen or the other princes, none of them were easy to control. Gao Ling was the only one who had ambition but no power. If the spiritual gate didn't choose him, who else would it choose? As for the fact that the royal family of Long Yuan nation was being scolded, what did that have to do with them? They only needed to control the country. Gao Xiaochen narrowed his cunning eyes when he heard Yun Luofeng's analysis. Xiao Feng, I really admire you. What you've said is the truth. Gao Ling is more controllable than anyone else. That's why I've come to you. We must destroy Gao Ling and Mu Wuxuan's wedding. Otherwise, if Gao Ling successfully enters the Tian family, both of us will be in danger. Yun Luofeng glanced at him from the corner of his eyes. What does it have to do with me if they get married? A scumbag and a cheap woman, it's a perfect match. Should I break them up and let them harm others? Furthermore, whether they get married or not, they will join forces to deal with me. Since that's the case, I might as well help them achieve their goals. Chapter 257. Was this really the way to help others achieve their goals? She would not ruin their marriage, but that did not mean that she would let them off. Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a smile and a dangerous light flashed across his narrowed eyes. Fourth prince, if there's nothing else, you may leave. As for Gao Ling and Mu Wuxuan's marriage, not only will I not ruin it, I will also give them a congratulatory gift. Gao Xiaochen raised his head and saw the young girl's sinister smile. Suddenly, his heart trembled and a strange feeling seemed to overflow from his heart. Even he did not understand where this feeling had come from. It did not come, but it occupied his entire heart. Just as Gao Xiaochen was about to walk towards Yun Luofeng, a large hand suddenly reached out from behind the young girl and draped a snow-white cloak over her body. The weather is a little cold. The man's voice was low and hoarse, but it was filled with deep concern. Yun Luofeng's heart warmed. She turned to look at the grim man behind her and asked, Yun Xiao, why are you here? I missed you. Yun Xiao's dark eyes stared fixedly at the peerlessly beautiful young girl before her. It was hard to imagine that the usually grim man would say such ambiguous words. This was not like him at all. Yun Xiao, Yun Luofeng furrowed her brows. What happened? The man did not answer her question. His eyes quietly fell upon her body. I like it when you call me Xiao, just like in bed. Thunder rumbled in the sky. Yun Xiao's sudden words stunned Yun Luofeng. When she noticed the cold light in Gao Xiaochen's eyes, she reacted and raised the corners of her lips. There are still people here. If there's anything, we can talk about it after we return to our room, all right? If Yun Xiao's words had only caused one's imagination to run wild, Yun Luofeng's words had inadvertently confirmed their relationship. Instantly, Gao Xiaochen looked at Yun Xiao with an unfriendly gaze. A cold light flashed in his slightly narrowed fox-like eyes. Suddenly, his lips curled into a smile and his gaze turned towards Yun Luofeng. Xiao Feng, I didn't think that your taste would be so special to fall in love with a guard. Yun Luofeng's gaze turned towards Gao Xiaochen. My eyesight is indeed not bad, otherwise I wouldn't have discovered such a special man like Yun Xiao. Gao Xiaochen's heart sank. He took a deep breath and suppressed the uncomfortable feeling in his heart. Since that's the case, I won't disturb you any longer. Xiao Feng, you should carefully consider my words. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows evilly as he leaned lazily against Yun Zhao's body. Fourth prince, I'm not that familiar with you, so it would be best if you changed the way you address me. Otherwise, if someone who doesn't know better misunderstands, your reputation will be tarnished. Gao Xiaochen had already recovered from the initial shock. He smiled elegantly and said, Isn't it better if it's a misunderstanding? Furthermore, this prince will not tarnish my reputation." As he spoke, he could not help but glance at Yun Shao next to him. The smile on his handsome face grew even more pronounced. "I'm sorry," Yun Luofeng's eyes revealed a touch of insolence. "I'm not talking about tarnishing your reputation. I'm afraid that my reputation will be destroyed in one day. After all, you're not good enough for me." When a normal woman rejects another man, she would certainly say that I'm not good enough for you and that you should find a better woman. Only she would have the audacity to say that you're not good enough for me. Chapter 258. Indeed, based on Gao Xiaochen's current status and power, he was not good enough for her. Gao Xiaochen's handsome face sank. "So he's good enough for you?" Hearing this, Yun Luofeng raised her brow. "That's right." "Why?" "I want to know the reason." "Because." Yun Luofeng paused. "He's cleaner than you, purer than you, more obedient than you and has a better figure than you. Furthermore, he's willing to be with me for the rest of our lives." Be with me for the rest of our lives. This is the dream of every woman, but how many people in this world would be willing to do that? Gao Xiaochen felt as if his heart had been struck fiercely. Even he did not know why he felt so displeased when he heard Yun Luofeng's words. Could it be that he has fallen in love with Yun Luofeng? No. That's impossible. There's no love in his heart. The reason why he wants Yun Luofeng is to make her part of his own organization. The displeasure in his heart must have stemmed from the fact that he had lost to a guard. Gao Xiaochen laughed self-deprecatingly at the thought of this. Based on his status as a member of the imperial family, he would never fall in love with any woman. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. This saying is indeed true. Gao Xiaochen smiled faintly. "Since you've made your choice, I won't force you. However, I still hope that you can join forces with me against Gao Ling. Farewell." Gao Xiaochen joined his fists and hurriedly turned around to leave. He was afraid that if he stayed any longer, he would not be able to control himself and attack Yun Shao. Even if he does not love Yun Luofeng, as a man, his pride would not allow him to lose to anyone else. However, in the end, he had restrained himself. He did not fight in the general's mansion. Gao Xiaochen, who had left in a hurry, did not notice that a pair of grim eyes had been watching him from behind. Yun Shao was expressionless and his face did not reveal anything. However, only Qin Yuan, who was hiding in the dark, knew that Gao Xiaochen was about to suffer a calamity. Who had asked him to snatch the mistress away? However, what Qin Yuan never expected was that his master had actually come to his senses. He actually knows how to use this method to chase away his love rival. TSK, this is really impressive. In the luxurious main hall of the imperial palace, Gao Tu saw a man and a woman walking into the hall and hurriedly welcomed them. He spoke respectfully. "Young Master Tian Yu, Miss Tian Ku, I didn't think that you would arrive so early. I apologize for not welcoming you earlier." He never thought that the Tian family would send the two most outstanding geniuses from the direct line. One could see how much they valued Mu Wuxuang. Tian Ku nodded indifferently and said, "Where is Mu Wuxuang?" "Miss Tianka, please wait a moment. I've already sent someone to summon Wuxuang and my son. They'll be back soon." Gao Tu didn't dare to be disrespectful in front of these two. He even changed the way he addressed himself. "Oh yes," Gao Tu seemed to have thought of something and his eyes darted around. "I know that the two of you must have heard about my son and Wuxuang on your way here. Actually, those are all false accusations. The two of them would never have gone to the bamboo house to sell their bodies. It was all Yun Luofeng from the Yun family. He was jealous that Wuxuang could marry my son, so he spread these rumors. In reality, they had only gone out to train for a few months and did not sell their bodies." Tian Ku gently furrowed her brows. She had no interest in Mu Wuxuang and Gao Ling's story. Anyway, she had come here to pick Mu Wuxuang up because Mu Wuxuang's physique was suitable to become a high-level medicine man. It was not because she wanted to groom him. As such, whether Mu Wuxuang was clean or innocent, what did it have to do with her? As for Gao Ling, if he and Mu Wuxuang were to become husband and wife, she would not mind having a low-level medicine man. Chapter 259. Your Majesty, His Highness the Crown Prince and Miss Wushuang are waiting for you outside. At this moment, the eunuch hurried in and reported respectfully. Hearing the eunuch's report, Gao Tu waved his hand. Let them in. Yes, Your Majesty. The eunuch accepted the order and retreated. Not long after, Gao Ling and Mu Wushuang walked in from outside the main hall. Their eyes were filled with confusion. Evidently, they did not know why Gao Tu had suddenly summoned them. My son, Wushuang, you're here? Gao Ling's eyes were cold and solemn. These two are Tian Ku and Tian Yu from the Tian family. Why don't you come in and greet them? Tian family? Mu Wushuang didn't know what kind of power the Tian family was, so he was stunned for a moment. Gao Ling, on the other hand, immediately reacted and said in a flattering tone, I've long heard of young Master Tian Yu and Miss Tian Ku's famous names. Now that I've seen you in person, you are indeed as talented as the rumors say. Tian Ku and Tian Yu had heard this kind of flattery many times. Hence, in the face of Gao Ling's compliments, they remained expressionless and indifferent. You are Mu Wushuang? Tian Ku coldly stared at Mu Wushuang's face. Tian Xian's daughter? Perhaps it was the words Tian Xian that caused Mu Wushuang's heart to tremble. She bit her lip as she stared at the cold and arrogant Tian Ku. Who are you? Tian Ku didn't speak. Her indifferent eyes swept across Mu Wushuang's face, her chin slightly raised, revealing a trace of arrogance. Wushuang, Gao Tu was afraid that Mu Wushuang would say something that would offend Tian Ku, so he hurriedly explained, Your mother, Tian Xian, is also a member of the Tian family, and the Tian family occupies a pivotal position in the mainland. Even the famous doctor in the mainland came from the Tian family. Gao Tu's words were like a heavy club that struck Mu Wushuang's heart. She widened her beautiful eyes, which were overflowing with excitement. Her elegant and peerlessly beautiful face was slightly flushed, and her thin lips trembled incessantly. Mu Wushuang had never thought that he would have such a great background. The continent's #1 divine doctor was actually her clansman? Who could compare to such a noble identity? If Yun Luofeng knew about this, she would definitely go crazy with jealousy. Perhaps he would even kneel in front of me and beg for mercy, ha ha ha. After all, no matter how talented Yun Luofeng was, he could not be compared to the continent's #1 miracle doctor. An excited smile appeared on Mu Wushuang's face. She glanced at Gao Ling with disgust in her eyes. If she had known that she was from the Tian family, she would never have married Gao Ling. Therefore, after she left this place, she had to get Tian Ku to help her break off the engagement. She would also make Gao Ling pay for his wrongdoings. Gao Tu was just about to say something to Mu Wushuang when he saw the obvious hatred in the young girl's eyes, and his eyelids twitched. Before this, he only cared about currying favor with the Tian family and forgot about the hatred in Mu Wushuang's heart. It seems that he must find a way to let Mu Wushuang temporarily put down his past grievances. Ahem. Gao Tu cleared his throat at the thought of this and ordered sternly, Imperial son, Sir Tian Yu and Miss Yu Tian Ku have come from afar. Take them to rest, Wushuang, I have something to say to you. Mu Wushuang's heart trembled. How could she not know why Gao Tu had asked her to stay? Chapter 260. However, seeing that the two from the Tian family had no reaction, Mu Wushuang suppressed the anger in her heart and replied obediently, Yes, Your Majesty. This way please. Gao Ling glanced at Mu Wushuang before retracting his gaze. He turned to Tian Yu and Tian Ku and made a gesture of affection. Tian Ku's voice was cold as she followed Gao Ling's gesture and walked out of the hall. Her face was cold and emotionless, her dark eyes filled with indifference. Wushuang. After the two left, Gao Tu's gaze turned to Mu Wushuang. How have I treated you all these years? Mu Wushuang's body trembled slightly. She bit her lips and said, Your Majesty has treated me like your own daughter. I will definitely be grateful. Since you know this, we can rest assured. Gao Tu sighed heavily. It's a pity that my unfilial son did something worse than an animal and caused you to suffer so much. In order to seek justice for you, we allowed that unfilial son to marry you. Mu Wushuang didn't say a word. Her lowered brows hid the trace of hatred in her eyes. She would never forget what had happened in the past. Gao Ling would pay for his mistakes sooner or later. Wuxuan, you will be leaving with the Tian family in a few days. If you don't have any support in such a big family, I'm afraid it will be extremely difficult for you. Of course, what Gao Tu found out was that the Tian family wanted to groom her as the second Tianya. However, she wouldn't tell Mu Wuxuan about this. If Mu Wuxuan knew how important she was to the Tian family, she would be even more disobedient. Unfortunately, Gao Tu didn't expect that the Tian family didn't want to groom Mu Wuxuan, but to use her as a test subject for medicine, the legendary medicine man. His efforts were destined to be in vain. Your Majesty, Wuxuan understands. Mu Wuxuan clenched her fists tighter and tighter, but her voice was as elegant as ever. She knew that Gao Tu was right. This was her first time returning to the Tian family, and she would definitely be put in a difficult position. If she was the crown princess of Long Yuan, the Tian family wouldn't go too far. She would only be able to kill Gao Ling when she obtained the highest position in the Tian family, or when she was able to curry favor with divine Dr. Tianya. It's good that you understand. Gao Tu smiled lovingly. The royal family has Ling men backing them up, so the Tian family won't make things too difficult for you. Furthermore, I've already told Tian Ku about what happened between you and Gao Ling in the bamboo house. It was Yun Luofeng who framed you. After all, the people from the Tian family didn't see what happened to you in the bamboo house, so they can only hold a skeptical attitude. Mu Wuxuan's body trembled, her beautiful face was slightly pale. The experience in the bamboo house was her eternal nightmare. Yun Luofeng. If this slut had not let her know that Jailing was trapped in the bamboo building, she would not have impulsively gone to investigate. If she had not gone to the bamboo building, she would not have ended up like this. All of this was Yun Luofeng's fault. If she had died a long time ago, how could such a thing happen? A slut like her, why didn't she go and die? The more Mu Wuxuan thought about it, the more hatred he felt. He fiercely gritted his teeth. I want Yun Luofeng dead. She must die. If you want her dead, it's very simple. Gao Tu glanced at Mu Wuxuan and smiled proudly. I can issue an imperial edict now, ordering her to enter the palace as the crown prince's concubine. At that time, as the crown princess, no matter how you torture her, no one will say a word. As a concubine, she will need to rely on you for the rest of her life. Chapter 261. Mu Wuxuan's lips curled up and he laughed coldly. Half a year ago, I planned to have Her Highness grant Yun Luofeng a marriage. In the end, it was delayed. I didn't expect that Yun Luofeng's marriage would still be decided by me. It's just that the target has changed from a playboy to Gao Ling's concubine. If it was half a year ago, she would never allow Yun Luofeng to become the crown prince's concubine. But after the incident in the bamboo house, she no longer has any feelings for the crown prince, only hatred. Naturally, she doesn't mind him taking a concubine. However, compared to her hatred for Gao Ling, she hates Yun Luofeng even more. Even if it was Gao Ling who caused her to lose her chastity, she will still blame most of the blame on Yun Luofeng. In accordance with the will of the heavens, the emperor has decreed that the eldest miss of the general's household, Yun Luofeng, is extremely beautiful, virtuous and virtuous. The crown prince, Gao Ling, is hereby bestowed as his concubine. In the front hall of the general's residence, the eunuch who delivered the edict put away the edict and smiled at the Yun grandfather and grandson standing in front of him. Miss Yun, aren't you going to accept the edict and thank the emperor? The old man's face was livid with anger and his beard was trembling. He rolled up his sleeves and was about to teach the eunuch a lesson when a slender arm reached out from behind and snatched the edict from the eunuch's hand. The eunuch smiled in satisfaction. Miss Yun, you are more sensible. You know that you cannot disobey the emperor's edict, rip. Just as the eunuch was about to praise her, a crisp sound like paper being torn was heard. His pupils shrank and his heart began to beat violently. What did you just say? Yun Luofeng threw the two halves of the edict on the ground and clapped her hands. Her lips curved slightly as she said, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you clearly. Can you say it again? The eunuch's face was livid with anger. He had been delivering edicts for many years, but this was the first time he had encountered such an arrogant person who not only refused to accept the edict, but also dared to tear it in half. Since you have nothing to say, then I can only send our guest out. Men, throw him out for me. Yes, eldest miss. As soon as Yun Luofeng finished speaking, 2 guards immediately walked out from behind him. Each of them grabbed the eunuch's body with one arm and fiercely threw him out the door. Bang! The eunuch fell miserably in front of the Yun family's main gate. He hurriedly got up and left under the curious gazes of the surrounding people. In the royal study, Gao Tu heard a hurried voice coming from outside the door. He slightly furrowed his brows and looked at the eunuch who walked in from outside the study. In a cold and deep voice, he said, "We sent you to pass on the edict. Did Yun Luofeng accept?" "Your Majesty." The eunuch knelt on the ground with a thud. That Yun Luofeng is extremely daring. Not only did he refuse the imperial edict, he even tore it up. Gao Tu's expression suddenly darkened. He had long expected that Yun Luofeng would refuse, but he never thought that she would actually have the courage to tear up the imperial edict on the spot. As expected of the daughter of that old man from Yun Luo. "You may leave," Gao Tu ordered coldly. "Yes, Your Majesty." The eunuch stood up, flicked the dust off his clothes, and respectfully bowed before retreating. After the eunuch had left, Gao Tu sneered and said to Gao Ling, who was standing beside him, "If you want Yun Luofeng to become your concubine, you can only rely on the power of the Tian family. If you don't send her to your palace to be tortured by Mu Wuxuang will not be able to quell his anger." In fact, Gao Tu did not think much of Gao Ling's stupid son. However, Ling men had already given the order that the next emperor of Long Yuan country could only be Gao Ling. Chapter 262. Imperial Father, I only want Yun Luofeng's body. Once I have her body, her life will be at Mu Wuxuang's disposal. Gao Ling's mind flashed with the image of a beautiful and demonic face, his heart filled with desire. Even if Yun Luofeng no longer loved him, he had to have her. Furthermore, he did not believe that Yun Luofeng, who had loved him so dearly, would suddenly lose all feelings for him. "You may leave as well." Gao Tu glanced at the confident Gao Ling and waved his hand impatiently. "Yes, father." Gao Ling returned to his senses and did not say anything else. He clasped his fists and retreated. Gao Tu's eyes darkened as he watched Gao Ling's retreating figure. The general's mansion. Inside the underground training room, as soon as Yun Luofeng stepped inside, everyone in the underground training room gathered around him. Second uncle. Yun Luofeng saw the man who was guiding others in their cultivation at first glance. His beautiful face lit up with a smile. "You've been in a good state of mind these past few days. I plan to help you recover your strength tonight." Yun Xingya's fingers trembled slightly as her cold eyes overflowed with excitement. "Fenger, are you saying that I can really recover?" Yun Luofeng slowly walked up to the man's sparkling eyes. At this moment, the girl's eyes were filled with unprecedented seriousness. "Second uncle, not only can I help you recover your previous strength, I can also help you increase your strength. After all, I've been adjusting your body for the past 6 months and channeling spiritual energy into your body. Therefore, after your breakthrough this time, your cultivation will turn everyone pale with fright." The man's handsome and elegant face revealed a smile. "Xiao Fenger, it's already a miracle that second uncle can recover his strength. I don't ask for any improvement in my cultivation." Second uncle. Yun Luofeng raised his head and stared at Yun Xingya's handsome face. "Once I've settled the matter in Long Yuan, tell me who hurt you back then. I will make the people who hurt you pay the price." Yun Xingya laughed softly. "All right, second uncle promises you that I will tell you everything that happened in the past." This lass was no longer the girl who could be easily bullied by anyone. The current her had grown to a shocking extent. Hence, there were some things that she really needed to understand clearly. Hearing Yun Xingya's reply, Yun Luofeng's eyes flashed with an evil light. The corners of his lips curled up into a confident and arrogant smile. "This time, I came to the underground training ground for something more important. It's time for the Steel Flame Legion to appear in the eyes of the world. Let's send a big gift to Prime Minister Mu's mansion on the day of the wedding. Back then, everyone in the army had been hand-picked by Gao Ling, and all of them had poor aptitudes. Now, after half a year, this army had grown into an existence that could sweep away thousands of enemies. If Gao Ling knew about this, he would definitely vomit blood in anger. Yun Xingya looked at the young girl's charming face and said seriously, "Little Fenger, no matter what you do, second uncle will support you." Listening to the man's sincere voice, Yun Luofeng's heart was filled with warmth. In today's world, other than Yun Shao, only these relatives would support her unconditionally. For these people, even if she had to kill all the gods and Buddhas in the world, she would not allow anyone to hurt them. Chapter 263. On the day of the wedding. The Crown Prince's residence was decorated with lanterns and streamers. Gao Tu and Imperial concubine Mu were sitting side by side on the high seats as they stared complacently at the newlyweds. As for Mu Wuxuan's master, he and Mu Xingqiu sat below Gao Tu with a satisfied smile on their faces. Apart from that, two of the most distinguished seats had been set up in the main hall. The two people in the seats were a handsome man and a beautiful woman with outstanding temperaments. However, in contrast to the joyous atmosphere, the two of them remained expressionless. Their expressions were elegant and noble. "Lord Prime Minister, something has happened. Something terrible has happened." Just as the ceremony was nearing its end, a hurried voice rang out from outside the main hall. A servant from the Prime Minister's residence stumbled into the hall. He was so anxious that his forehead was drenched in sweat and he almost fell to the ground. Suddenly, the entire hall fell silent as everyone's eyes focused on the servant. Mu Xingqiu's expression turned ugly as he asked, "What happened?" "Lord Prime Minister," the servant knelt on the ground with a thud and replied while sweating profusely, "Our Prime Minister's residence. The Prime Minister's residence has been destroyed by a group of people." Bang! Mu Xingqiu slammed the table fiercely and rose to his feet. His old face was ashen as he asked, "Who would be so audacious as to destroy the Prime Minister's residence? Especially during his granddaughter's wedding. Who was it that had such a deep grudge against the Mu clan?" Suddenly, a possibility emerged in his heart and he could not help but grit his teeth. Yun Luo, it must be that bastard. Yun Luo had sent people to flatten the residence over 10 years ago. He never expected that he would do the same thing again over 10 years later. The funny thing was that this tactic was useless against him. The residence could be rebuilt even if it was destroyed and the loss was not that great. Just as Mu Xingqiu was deep in thought, another hurried voice rang out from outside the main hall, "Lord Prime Minister, something has happened. Something big has happened." Just as these words were spoken, a man dressed in green robes rushed into the hall. He was panting and sweating profusely, perhaps because he had run all the way. "What happened now?" Mu Xingqiu asked impatiently. "Lord Prime Minister, all of our properties in the imperial city have been burned down." "What?" Mu Xingqiu staggered and sat down on a chair. He clenched his fists tightly and suppressed the anger in his heart. "Did you see what kind of bandits burned down my Mu clan's property?" The green-robed man wiped the sweat off his forehead and said anxiously, "Prime Minister, I don't think they are bandits. They look like well-trained soldiers." "Soldier?" Mu Xingqiu furrowed his brows. Yun Luo's real power had already been taken back by His Majesty. It was impossible for him to still have soldiers in his hands. Could it be that the people who destroyed the Prime Minister's residence and burned down all of his properties wasn't Yun Luo? They are soldiers. They even call themselves the Steel Flame Legion. Steel Flame Legion? Why had he never heard of this name before? Mu Xingqiu's heart gradually sank. He would rather Yun Luo was the one who had done all this than him being clueless about it. He didn't even know who he had offended. Seeing Mu Xingqiu's pale old face, Imperial concubine Mu hurriedly stood up. She turned around and knelt in front of Gao Tuesday. She wept and said, "Your Majesty, those bastards caused trouble at Wuxuang's wedding. They must not want Wuxuang to marry the crown prince. Moreover, they have gone too far. Your Majesty, please uphold justice." Chapter 264. My beloved concubine, Gao Tu raised his hand and helped Imperial concubine Mu up. His voice was full of gentleness. Don't worry, we will definitely investigate this matter and give the Mu family an explanation. Thank you, Your Majesty. Imperial concubine Mu smiled through her tears and stood up gracefully. At this moment, the Imperial guard who was standing guard outside quickly walked into the main hall. He knelt on one knee and said, Your Majesty, a woman who claims to be the deputy commander of the Flame Legion has come to request an audience. Flame? The Steel Flame Legion? These two words caused Mu Xingqiu to explode. He stood up furiously and his eyes were spitting flames of fury. These people actually dared to come knocking on our door. Your Majesty, I will go and deal with these bastards. After saying this, Mu Xingqiu did not wait for Gao Tu to give the order and strode out of the main hall. Mu Wuxuan hurriedly lifted the red veil on her head. Her beautiful eyes anxiously looked in the direction that Mu Xingqiu had left. After thinking for a moment, she finally ignored the strange looks from the others and chased after him. In the courtyard, a charming and quick-witted girl stood under a willow tree. Her big round eyes glowed with a bright luster and the two dimples at the corners of her mouth were very intoxicating. Zhong Linger immediately saw Mu Xingqiu and the others walking out. Her quick-witted eyes were filled with smiles as she said, Prime Minister Mu, do you like the gift from our Steel Flame Legion? You. Mu Xingqiu angrily pointed at Zhong Linger, his face flushed with anger, how dare you? I don't know who gave you the courage to not only pick the Prime Minister's residence, but also the Crown Prince's residence. More importantly, he wanted to know who the mastermind behind the Steel Flame Legion was. Zhong Linger playfully blinked, I heard that today is the wedding day of the Mu family's eldest daughter, Mu Wuxuan, and the Crown Prince, so I specially came to give you a surprise. Surprise? It's more like a shock. This damned girl actually said that smashing the Prime Minister's residence and burning all the Mu family's properties was a surprise from her. She's simply shameless to the extreme. Of course. Zhong Linger glanced at Prime Minister Mu, who was so angry that he could not speak, and said with a smile, My main purpose here is to send a letter of challenge to my master. Mu Xingqiu held his breath. His elderly face was ashen and his sharp eyes seemed to burn with raging flames. It was as if they could burn a person to ashes in an instant. Where's the letter of challenge? Mu Wuxuan stepped forward, her beautiful eyes coldly glanced at Zhong Linger and asked coldly. Take it. Zhong Linger threw the letter of challenge to Mu Wuxuan. Her pair of quick-witted eyes curved into crescent moons. My mission has been completed. It's time for me to return and report to my master. Don't ask me to stay for dinner. Eat. Eat your sister's meal. Mu Xingqiu looked at Zhong Linger, who had turned around to leave, and the anger in his chest became more and more intense. This damned girl smashed the Prime Minister's residence, and she still thought that I would ask her to stay for dinner? However, at a time like this, Mu Xingqiu was still able to distinguish the severity of the situation. No matter how hateful Zhong Linger is, she's only a messenger. If I kill her here, her master behind the scenes will not show himself. Therefore, Mu Xingqiu suppressed the anger in his heart and took the letter of challenge from Mu Wuxuan's hand. His old face turned cold as he turned away. In 2 days' time, the Mu family will be destroyed. Chapter 265. There was no signature, only one simple sentence. Arrogant, domineering, confident. 2 days from now, the Mu family will be destroyed. Mu Xingqiu was so angry that he tore the letter of challenge into pieces. With an ashen face, he said, Counter soldiers with arms and water with earth. I don't care who you are. Since you dare to provoke the Mu clan, you must pay a painful price. In contrast to Mu Xingqiu's anger, Gao Ling, whose wedding ceremony had been disrupted, was silent. He stared fixedly at the direction in which Zhong Linger had left and a sense of confusion flashed across his cold eyes. That young girl. I seem to have seen her somewhere before. Gao Ling furrowed his brows, unable to recall Zhong Linger's identity. He decided not to think about it any further and shook his head, sighing soundlessly. He would never have guessed that Zhong Linger was the person whom he had chosen to enter the general's residence that day. After all, those people had all passed through his hands. He had only handed them over to Yun Luo after he had tested their low talents. Hence, when he found out that the members of the Steel Flame Regiment were the same people whom he had chosen that day, his heart, liver, spleen, lungs and kidneys would twist into a straight line. In the rear courtyard of the general's residence, Zhong Linger saw the young girl lying lazily on Yun Zhao's lap from afar. She hesitated for a moment, but after muttering to herself for a while, she still risked disturbing the two of them and walked over. "Master, I have delivered the letter of challenge that you had asked me to deliver to Mu Xingqiu." This voice was nasal and sounded even more languid. "It's been 2 days, Yi Ling should be back soon." Yun Luofeng slowly sat up on the man's thigh. His pitch-black eyes fell upon Zhong Linger's pretty face. "That year, when I had subdued you, I had said that if you follow me, I will make your names known throughout the mainland. I will make the world tremble at the sound of your names. This will be your first step into the eyes of the world. Once you succeed, from now on, you will no longer be the good-for-nothings who can be trampled upon by others." The young girl's words were very persuasive and stirred Zhong Linger's heart. "Master, I will not let you down." Yun Luofeng curled his lips into a smile. "Go and make your preparations. There will be a great battle in 2 days." "Yes, master." Zhong Linger respectfully cupped her fists and retreated. Looking at Zhong Linger's departing figure, Qin Yan, who was quietly waiting on the side, was silent for a long time. She then asked, "Miss, the fourth prince said that Mu Wushuang is related to the Tian clan, and the Tian clan has another genius doctor. If we deal with Mu Wushuang now, isn't it too early?" Before Qin Yan could finish her words, she was interrupted by the young girl's demonic voice. "In the beginning, if I didn't know Mu Wushuang's identity, I wouldn't have acted rashly." Her eyes narrowed slightly, a flash of light flashed from the bottom of her eyes. "But now that I know, I have nothing to worry about." "Miss, I still don't understand." Qin Yan looked at Yun Luofeng doubtfully and asked again. Yun Luofeng lowered his eyes, and the smile on his lips gradually spread. "Qin Yan, if Tianya really has feelings for the Tian family, why hasn't he returned to the family for several decades?" Since he hadn't returned for decades, it proved that the Tian family was dispensable to him. Without Tianya, the Tian family is nothing to be afraid of. Chapter 266. Hearing Yun Luofeng's words, Qin Yan nodded her head in understanding. "Miss, this servant understands. It turns out that the Tian clan is merely an empty shell. Without Tianya's protection, let's see how they will continue to act as accomplices to the evil." Yun Luofeng smiled and did not answer Qin Yan's question. She lay lazily on Yun Zhao's body and raised the corners of her lips. "Yun Zhao, what do you think of my decision?" Yun Zhao lowered her head to look at the young girl lying on her thighs. Her large hand gently smoothed out her fine black hair which flowed like a waterfall. Her grim eyes were filled with determination. "You kill, I'll bury the bodies. In other words, you only need to kill. I'll clean up the rest of the mess for you. You don't need to worry about anything." Yun Luofeng felt as if her heart had been touched by a hand. A feeling that she had never felt before rose from within her. That feeling changed her state of mind. Yun Luofeng's gaze fell upon Yun Zhao's grim features and the corners of her lips twitched. "In this world, no matter how the world sees me, it's enough that you understand me. The world's eyes, the world's words, what do they have to do with me? She only needs his understanding." Qin Yan, Yun Luofeng sat up straight again and stretched lazily. "Come, let's go and help my second uncle recover his powers." Qin Yan's eyes lit up and her delicate face lit up with a smile. "My lady, can the second master really recover his powers?" "That's right," Yun Luofeng nodded. "With the medicine that I've specially prepared for him, he'll be able to recover his powers very soon. No, that's not all. This time, his cultivation will improve by leaps and bounds." It was about time. It was time for her to help second uncle recover his powers. Only when he has regained his powers will the Yun family truly become powerful. Over the past few days, many shocking events have happened in Long Yuan country. Firstly, on the day of Mu Wushuan and Gao Ling's wedding, a group of 100 men called themselves the Steel Flame Army had appeared out of nowhere. Not only had they destroyed the Prime Minister's residence, they had also set fire to all of the Mu family's businesses. Therefore, everyone began to discuss. They didn't know who the Prime Minister's palace had offended to end up like this. Just as this matter was about to die down, another piece of news came crashing down like a heavy club, causing the entire imperial city of Long Yuan nation to tremble. Years ago, Yi Ling, who was a hostage of the Long Yuan kingdom, had escaped back to the Jin kingdom. Today, she had returned to the Long Yuan kingdom to propose marriage. On the other hand, the person he proposed to was a servant girl from General Yun's estate called Qin Yan. When Gao Tu found out about this, he was instantly enraged. He stood up angrily, and his handsome face was ashen. Yi Ling, I've given you your freedom, but you've seduced a servant girl from Yunluo Manor and proposed marriage in front of everyone. This is simply looking down on this emperor. Half a year ago, in order to frame Yunluo, Gao Tu had sent Yi Ling to General Yun's estate. He never thought that Yi Ling would secretly seduce a servant girl from Yunluo Manor and betray him. More importantly, Yi Ling had caused such a ruckus. Everyone would know that Long Yuan country had failed to suppress the hostage and had allowed the hostage to escape. How could Yi Ling still have any face left? Yi Ling, you want to marry a servant girl from the General Yun's estate? Unfortunately, this emperor can't do as you wish. Gao Tu laughed icily and ordered sternly, someone, send a messenger to the flowing gold country and convey my decree. I want to betroth the 8th princess to Yi Ling. Chapter 267. Yun Luo, you found a servant girl to seduce Yi Ling. Do you think you can marry into the royal family of the flowing gold kingdom? What a joke. We will never let you have your way. You're just a little servant girl and you want to dream of becoming a concubine of the prince? Dream on. Gao Tu would never have thought that the emperor of the flowing gold kingdom would be imprisoned by Yi Ling. Who would be able to make the decision for him? Unfortunately, on this mainland where communication was not very advanced, it would take several months to spread a piece of news. Furthermore, the distance between the flowing gold kingdom and Long Yuan country was not very close. By the time the news of what had happened in the flowing gold kingdom reached Long Yuan country, the dynasty in Long Yuan country would have already changed. In the front hall, the old man stared in satisfaction at Yi Ling, who was standing in front of him. He nodded incessantly and smiled, not bad, this young man is not bad. Although Qin Yan is a servant girl of the Yun family, she and my granddaughter have a deep relationship. I hope that after you marry her, you will not take any concubines. Are you willing to do this? Qin Yan felt a surge of emotion in her heart. She had only been a servant girl of the Yun family. Even though she had become the commander of the Flame Legion, she was still a subordinate. She never thought that the general would be so considerate of her. Thinking of this, Qin Yan raised her head to look at Yi Ling. When their eyes met, she instinctively retracted her gaze and blushed. Old general, don't worry. I will not let Qin Yan down. Aside from her, there will not be any other woman. Yi Ling's eyes were solemn and determined as she promised, emphasizing every word. The old man laughed heartily. Since that's the case, the Yun family will marry this girl to you in the name of marrying off our daughter. After hearing their words, Qin Yan's face became even redder. She swept a glance at Yi Ling who was at the side and seemed to have made a decision in her heart. She turned towards Lord Yun. General, our Yun family's enmity has yet to be avenged. This servant doesn't want to marry so soon. Even though the Mu family was about to fall, Yun Qingya's enemies were still at large. How could she marry in peace at a time like this? She would not marry until she had her revenge. Yun Luo was moved as he stared at the little girl before him who valued relationships and loyalty. He sighed and said, if you don't want to marry, you can get engaged to the 3rd prince first and choose a date to marry. Yi Ling, who had been slightly disappointed, was overjoyed when she heard the old man's words. She hurriedly knelt on the ground. Thank you, old general. I will definitely treat Qin Yan well and will not let her suffer any grievances. The old man was startled by Yi Ling's actions. He hurriedly stood up and rubbed his fist, caught off guard. 3rd prince, you're too polite. Hurry up and get up. I can't afford to kneel like this. Yi Ling, the old man, Yun, 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 Yi, Yun, Luo Yun, Yun said. You little girl, the old man glared at Yun Luofeng. He's still the third prince of flowing gold country. Even if he's married to Qin Yan, he can't kneel before me. Yun Luofeng shrugged. I forgot to tell you that Yi Ling is my subordinate. It's only right for him to kneel to you. You don't have to feel uneasy. Yun Luofeng had told the old man that she had gone to the flowing gold kingdom for revenge, but she had not been too specific. Thus, the old man did not know that Yi Ling was her subordinate. Chapter 268. So, when Master Yun heard Yun Luofeng's words, his jaw dropped and his face filled with astonishment. Did I hear wrongly? The third prince of the flowing gold country is my precious granddaughter's subordinate? Feng, is what you say true? Master Yun was shocked, but he was very proud of his granddaughter. Even a prince had been accepted as a subordinate. Aside from his granddaughter, who else could achieve this on their own? You don't know? Yun Luofeng stared at Master Yun in astonishment. He's the deputy commander of the Iron Army. However, when I brought you to the underground training ground, he had gone on a mission and has only returned today. Even though Master Yun had fought against the flowing gold country, he had never seen the third prince of the flowing gold country. Hence, when Gao Tu had wanted Yi Ling to hide in the Yun family home half a year ago, Master Yun had not discovered his presence. Otherwise, he would never have allowed Yi Ling to set foot in the Yun family home. As a result, there wouldn't be such a good marriage. Ha ha ha. Master Yun laughed heartily once again. He stroked his long beard and his elderly features were filled with a complacent smile. I had thought that Qin Yan and the third prince had met in the flowing gold country. I never thought that they would have such a history. Shouldn't we be thanking Gao Tu for granting us such a wonderful marriage? Master Yun did not need to think too much to know that it was Gao Tu's handiwork for a hostage from an enemy country to infiltrate the Yun family home. However, based on the current situation, Yi Ling has been completely subdued by his granddaughter. Hence, he should be thanking Gao Tu for allowing Qin Yan to find such an outstanding husband. Most importantly, he should be thanking him for giving his granddaughter such a capable subordinate. Do you think that Gao Tu would be angered half to death if he knew about this? Yun Luofeng laughed and asked. Yun Luofeng gently stroked his chin as a sinister smile gathered in his pitch-black eyes. I don't think angering him half to death is enough. I want him to step down from his position as emperor. Grandfather, in 2 days' time, sit quietly and watch the show. That show will be unforgettable for the rest of your life. As he spoke, Yun Luofeng turned towards Yi Ling and raised his brows. Second uncle will be in closed-door cultivation for the next 2 days. You will be in charge of the Iron Army. Yi Ling was startled and replied respectfully, Yes, master. Your second uncle is in seclusion? The old man heard the key words in this paragraph, and his eyes were filled with doubt. Ever since your second uncle was injured 10 years ago, he has been unable to break through. Why is he suddenly in seclusion now? Yun Luofeng blinked slightly. This is a surprise. You will know when the time comes. Surprise? These 2 words made the old man involuntarily roll his eyes. Every time this brat said that she would give him a surprise, she would scare him half to death. He didn't know what she was up to recently. Could it be, suddenly, the old man seemed to have thought of something, and his whole body trembled. Don't tell me you're helping your second uncle recover his strength? Yun Luofeng shrugged and smiled. Since it's a surprise, it won't have that kind of effect if I say it out loud. In a few days, you'll know the answer. I'm tired. Qin Yan, let's go. With that, she yawned lazily and slowly walked out of the hall. Staring at the girl's figure as she walked out of the hall, the old man shook his head helplessly. This brat, forget it. Even if she doesn't tell me, I'll find out sooner or later. There's no rush at all. In reality, there was a reason why Yun Luofeng didn't tell him about this matter for the time being. She had a way to treat Yun Qingya, but it depended on his endurance. If he could endure it, not only would he be able to recover his cultivation, but he would also be able to advance by leaps and bounds. Chapter 269. If she failed, wouldn't that make the old man happy for nothing? Therefore, she chose to hide it and wait for Yunxingya to really cure her injuries before telling the old man the good news. After all, the old man was so old that he couldn't withstand such ups and downs. Prime Minister's mansion. Inside the boudoir that was filled with the fragrance of sandalwood, Mu Wuxuang pushed open the door and walked in. She saw Tianku sitting on the bed with her eyes closed. After pondering for a while, she slowly walked over. Miss Tianku, you know what happened to the Prime Minister's mansion recently? I asked Miss Tianku to help me. Since the Steel Flame Legion dared to attack the Prime Minister's mansion on the day of her wedding, it proved that she clearly didn't put the royal family in her eyes. Therefore, she could only come to ask Tianku. If Tianku was willing to take action, the Steel Flame Legion wouldn't be a problem at all. After Mu Wuxuang's request fell, Tianku slightly opened her eyes and coldly glanced at the girl standing in front of her. She lightly said, I'm here just to take you away. As for your Mu clan's affairs, it has nothing to do with me. Mu Wuxuang, you will be a member of our Tian clan in the future. I advise you to not meddle in these mundane affairs. Mu Wuxuang's heart suddenly tightened, her face full of anxiety. But, Miss Tianku, the Mu clan is the place where I was born and raised, how can I abandon it? Tianku slightly raised her eyes, her eyebrows full of arrogance. Mu Wuxuang, if you want to take care of the Mu clan, then I can only give up on you. So I hope you think about it carefully. Once you join the Tian clan, from now on, the life and death of the Mu clan has nothing to do with you. At this moment, Mu Wuxuang's face was pale, her hands on both sides were tightly clenched. She looked up at the woman sitting cross-legged on the bed, and her heart involuntarily surged with jealousy. Someone who also belongs to the Tian clan. Why can she give orders from above, while I have to be humble to the bone and flatter this woman in order to smoothly enter the Tian clan? No. She was not willing. She, Mu Wuxuang, wanted the supreme position, not to bow in front of others. Whether it was Yun Luofeng or Tianku, she had to trample them under her feet. Mu Wuxuan clenched his fists tighter and tighter. He raised his head and said, Miss Tianka, I understand. I will no longer care about the Mujia's affairs. The Mujia's life and death have nothing to do with me. If she had to give up the family that had raised her in order to become stronger, then she had no other choice. She believed that her grandfather would understand her. It's good that you understand. Tianku brushed her sleeves and slowly got up from the bed. Her cold eyes looked at Mu Wuxuang. Mu Wuxuang, go and prepare, we will leave the Mujia now. Now? Mu Wuxuang was startled. The Steel Flame Legion will come to the Mujia in 2 days. Mu Wuxuan, Tianku interrupted Mu Wuxuan with a frown. Have you forgotten what we said before? If you want to stay, I won't stop you. I hope you won't regret it. Mu Wuxuan closed his eyes slightly, and his eyelashes trembled slightly. She knew that if she insisted on staying, she would lose a chance to become a superior person. Good, Mu Wuxuang opened his eyes. There was no longer any entanglement in his eyes. Instead it was replaced by a ruthless look. Miss Tianka, I will leave with you. Tianku nodded indifferently. Chapter 270. For her, Mu Wuxuang was just a medicine man. How could she stay here for a medicine man? Agreeing to wait until she got married was already an exceptional kindness. It was impossible for her to waste her energy on a medicine man. Pack up, we'll leave immediately. Tianku's words were as cold and ruthless as ever, causing Mu Wuxuang to grit his teeth in hatred. However, he did not dare to show it on his face. Her face was respectful, but her heart was full of hatred. Tianku, just you wait. When I become famous in the Tian family, I will also make you deserted. Outside the door, a little maid who was eavesdropping heard their conversation. She was shocked and hurriedly went to find Mu Xingqiu to report the matter. When Mu Xingqiu learned that Mu Wuxuang was about to leave with the 2 people from the Tian family, he was furious. He hurriedly got up and went to the courtyard to stop them. Fortunately, Mu Wuxuang needed some time to pack his luggage. Therefore, when Mu Xingqiu rushed to the courtyard, he happened to bump into Mu Wuxuang, who was following behind the 2 people from the Tian family. Wuxuang. Mu Xingqiu's eyes suddenly became incomparably red, faintly containing the flames of anger. What are you trying to do? Do you want to abandon the family? In the beginning, Mu Xingqiu did not put the steel flame regiment in his eyes because the Tian family was here to support him. Otherwise, he would not have dared to talk nonsense without knowing the other party's identity. He did not expect that the Tian family would leave just like that. His own granddaughter did not care about the life and death of the family. Prime Minister Mu, you're wrong. Mu Wuxuang's eyes slightly sank. I am now a member of the Tian family. My family is only the Tian family. The Mu family is no longer important to me. In order to prove his determination to Tian Ku, Mu Wuxuang even called him Prime Minister Mu. The purpose was to draw a clear line between him and the Prime Minister's residence. Mu Xingqiu's heart suddenly became incomparably cold. He looked at Mu Wuxuang's heartless face in disbelief. What did you just call me? Mu Wuxuang, don't forget, I raised you. Without me, where would you come from? I've also given you endless love and indulgence. Now that you've climbed up a high branch, you immediately turn your back on me? Mu Wuxuang tightly frowned. If you really love me, you shouldn't stop me from going to a more suitable path for my development. Staying in this Mu Jia will only limit my footsteps. If I want to stand out, if I want to trample the world under my feet, I must leave this place. Her voice was cold and heartless, as if the old man standing in front of her was not a relative who had raised her, but a stranger. Humans are selfish by nature. Even though she was initially angry at Tian Ku's words, she calmed down in the end. As long as she could stand at the pinnacle of the mainland, forget about leaving the Mu family, even if she was asked to kill her own family, she would do it without hesitation. Pa! A slap came from the side and landed on Mu Wuxuang's face. Immediately, her head tilted to one side, her messy hair draped over her shoulder, and half of her face was red and swollen. Wiping the blood from the corner of her mouth, Mu Wuxuang sneered. Her eyes turned to the angry handsome man beside her and said mockingly, "What right do you have to hit me?" Mu Wuchen's face was livid. He raised his hand and wanted to slap again, but in the end, he weakly put it down. Mu Wuxuang, he is your grandfather, the Mu Jia is your family. You don't care about the lives of your loved ones and only care about yourself? Mu Wuxuang smiled coldly. I repeat again, my family is the Tian Jia, the Mu Jia has nothing to do with me. What wrong do I have to do for myself? What has the Mu Jia given me all these years? Why should I give up my chance to become a talent for you? Chapter 271. Mu Wuxuang. Mu Wuchen gritted his teeth, his eyes spewing flames of anger. You dare to ask what the Mu Jia has given you? Are all these years of opportunities to live a luxurious life a fake? Without the Mu Jia, do you think you would be where you are today? In the entire Mu Jia, Grandpa loves you the most, but I didn't expect that the most cruel and unscrupulous person is also you. Hearing his brother's roaring voice, Mu Wuxuang's sarcastic smile became even more obvious. But the Mu Jia did not let me grow up to be a superior person. I'm still being bullied by Yun Luofeng. If the Mu Jia had extremely strong strength, how could that slut dare to bully me? I don't blame myself for leaving the Mu Jia, I only blame the Mu Jia for not having the strength to keep me. If at first, Mu Wuxuang still felt a little guilty for her decision, now, because of the actions of these relatives, the guilt in her heart has disappeared without a trace. However, while Mu Wuxuang and Mu Wuchen were quarreling, they did not notice that in a corner not far away, Mu Shen's figure flashed and soon disappeared. Brother, you are too selfish. Mu Wuxuang looked at Mu Wuchen, who was so angry that he couldn't speak. Her beautiful eyes were filled with disappointment. If you really love me, you wouldn't have stopped me. You would rather destroy the Mu Jia than bother me. Yet, all of you stood up and insulted me with righteous words. Your behavior will only make me more disgusted with the Mu Jia. Mu Wuxuang. Big brother, I don't think I'm wrong. Every man for himself, heaven and earth will destroy him. I believe that in this world, anyone who stands in my position will make the same choice as me, no one will be an exception. Don't look at how much that slut Yun Luofeng shows. I believe that if she had the chance to reach the sky in one step, she would not give it up. In Mu Wuxuang's mind, people are selfish, there can be no exception, so she doesn't think she did anything wrong. Even if the Mu Jia raised her, so what? That was all of their own free will, and they couldn't use their upbringing to kidnap her. Miss Tianku, Mu Wuxuang turned to Tianku. Let's go. Tianku nodded indifferently, her eyes flashed with a strong sense of ridicule. A person like Mu Wuxuang also wants to be a superior person? He must be dreaming. When she went to the Tian family, she would know how big of a mistake it was to give up on her grandfather and brother. Unfortunately, she no longer had the chance to choose again. Mu Wuxuan, stop right there. Mu Wuchen anxiously grabbed Mu Wuxuan's arm. Are you really so ruthless that you don't care about the Mu Jia at all? Right now, the Mu Jia not only has the Steel Flame Legion as their opponent, but also the covetous Yun Luo. If you leave, the Mu Jia will definitely be destroyed. Can you rest assured? Mu Wuxuan's footsteps halted. Because his back was facing Mu Wuchen was unable to see her expression. However, seeing Mu Wuxuang stop, Mu Wuchen thought that she still had a chance to turn back, and her eyes couldn't help but soften. Wuxuang, when you were bullied outside, I led a group of people to beat up those bastards who bullied you. You adored the crown prince, so I didn't allow any woman to peep at the crown prince. I helped you deal with all the women who peeped at the crown prince. Also, when we were young, when we went out to train, you were attacked by a spirit beast. It was me who blocked the attack for you, so you survived. Have you forgotten all these? Chapter 272. The past flowed into Mu Wuxuan's mind like water. However, these things did not make Mu Wuxuan feel the slightest bit guilty. Instead, it made her hate him even more. She raised her hand and slapped away Mu Wuchen's grip on her arm before turning to face him. Mu Wuchen, back then, even if you died under the claws of that spiritual beast, you asked for it. I didn't ask you to save me, you were the one who did it. Let me tell you, whoever stands in my way is my enemy. I will never show mercy to my enemies. What she meant was that if Mu Wuchen stood in her way again, she would not be polite. Wuchen, Mu Xingqiu had already recovered from his initial anger. He closed his eyes slightly. At that moment, he looked extremely old. Let her go. Grandfather. Mu Wuchen cried out involuntarily. Let her go. Mu Xingqiu opened his old eyes and stared deeply at Mu Wuxuan. But, I hope you won't regret your actions today. Regret? Mu Wuxuan sneered and curled his lips mockingly. I left the Mu family to become stronger. What do I have to regret? Grandfather, it's because of you that I made this decision today. If it wasn't for the fact that you're not as strong as Yun Luo, I would not have left the Mu family. So, all of this is your fault, you're too useless. Mu Wuxuan almost roared out the last sentence, his eyes filled with hatred. I want to join the Tian family. I want to become stronger. I want that slut Yun Luo Feng to kneel in front of me and beg for mercy. Mu Xingqiu stared unblinkingly at the girl's hateful eyes, as if it was the first time he met Mu Wuxuan. It turned out that the love he had for her all these years could not compare to her pursuit of power. Why should he keep a granddaughter like this? Grandfather, this time, I will also take Gao Ling with me. Soon, I will use the name of the Tian family to order Yun Luo Feng to become Gao Ling's concubine. At that time, I can torture her however I want. Can the Mu family do this? The hatred in his heart towards Yun Luo Feng caused Mu Wuxuan's face to distort and his eyes to look sinister. Since you can't do it, then you don't have the right to keep me here. Mu Wuxuan fiercely flung his sleeves, turned around and walked to Tianku's side. Miss Tianku, my business has been dealt with. From now on, I am a member of the Tian family, and I am willing to do anything for the Tian family. As for the fate of Prime Minister Mu's mansion, it has nothing to do with me. Just after Mu Wuxuang's words fell, an evil and lazy voice suddenly came from outside the courtyard, with a hint of a smile. Go? Where do you want to go in such a hurry? This voice, for Mu Wuxuang, couldn't be more familiar. In an instant, the hatred in her eyes deepened as she coldly looked outside the courtyard. Da. First, a wave of orderly and powerful footsteps came from outside the door. Then, a group of well-trained soldiers rushed in from outside the door. In an instant, they surrounded the entire courtyard. Then, a few women carried a large sedan and walked in from the courtyard. In this luxurious and spacious sedan, the young girl's whole body was lying on the thighs of the cold man, her right hand carelessly supporting the back of her head. Her snow-white dress gently fluttered in the breeze, revealing her delicate collarbone. Her face was incomparably beautiful, and the corners of her lips gently curled up into an evil smile. Her dark eyes were filled with a lazy smile. It has to be said that seeing Yun Luofeng like this, even the people of the Mu family couldn't help but be amazed. In particular, the handsome man and the beautiful woman sitting in the sedan looked so compatible. They were as perfect as a mural. The man seemed to be very dissatisfied with the gazes that were focused on the young girl. His cold eyes scanned the surroundings. His gaze was as sharp as a long sword. Everyone who was looked at by him retracted their gazes, feeling a chill run from the soles of their feet to their hearts. Chapter 273. It's you. Mu Xingqiu saw Zhong Linger, who was standing next to the palanquin, at first glance. His eyes were instantly filled with rage and he could not wait to rush over and give her a good beating. In the end, however, he held himself back. He glared angrily at Yun Luofeng. His elderly face was filled with hatred as he said, "Yun Luofeng. The Yun family. I've been wondering why someone would want to make an enemy out of me when the Mu family has not offended many people. I never thought that you'd be the mastermind behind all of this." How laughable. The world had been kept in the dark by her and no one had realized that this young girl had unknowingly developed such great power. Yun Luofeng's posture was languid and contented. She placed her hand on the palanquin's handle and raised her eyes to look at Mu Xingqiu evilly. "I should thank Gao Ling for this. If he had not gone through so much trouble to find this group of people for me, my power would not have grown so quickly." Suddenly, Mu Xingqiu's face turned even uglier. "The Crown Prince has only found you people with poor aptitudes. It can't be these people. Yun Luofeng, your rebellious behavior will result in the execution of your entire clan." "Execution of my entire clan?" Yun Luofeng chuckled. "I wonder what gives you the right to execute my entire clan? Forget about the fact that the Crown Prince had personally sent these people to me, so what if I had secretly recruited them? If I really wanted to rebel and usurp the throne, it would not have belonged to him a long time ago." Mu Xingqiu was stunned. He clearly could not believe that this young girl would be so egotistical to say such rebellious words in front of so many people. Even if she had the general's estate as her backing, she could not compare to the imperial family. One must not forget that the imperial family had the #1 powerhouse among the advanced high spiritualists. As for the Yun family, only Yun Luofeng was more powerful. However, no matter how powerful Yun Luofeng was, he was only a rudimentary high spiritualist. He could not be compared to the imperial family's #1 powerhouse. Yun Luofeng. When Mu Xingqiu found out that the mastermind behind the Steel Flame Legion was Yun Luofeng, he relaxed and mocked. "For the past half a year, you've certainly made people look at you in a different light. Unfortunately, no matter how powerful your forces are, you're still a good-for-nothing. Today, you have the audacity to barge into my Prime Minister's mansion. I will make sure that you will not be able to leave this place alive." Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and asked with a faint smile, "Do you think you have the right to say such words?" Everyone in the Steel Flame Legion no longer concealed their auras. Instead, they released their auras and enveloped the sky above the general's mansion. Mu Xingqiu, who was initially full of confidence, instantly turned pale when he sensed the aura of these people. He widened his eyes in shock and his body began to tremble violently. 10 of them are rudimentary high spiritualists, while the rest are advanced middle spiritualists. This is impossible. In the entire Long Yuan kingdom, there were only 2 high spiritual realm cultivators. Even Yun Xingya, who was once called a genius, was only an advanced intermediate spiritualist back then. I didn't expect 10 high spiritualists to appear all of a sudden. However, Yun Xingya was only 12 years old back then. It had only been 2 years since he started cultivating. To be able to break through to an advanced intermediate spiritualist in 2 years without any external help was indeed a genius. After all, the general's mansion in Longyuan Kingdom was not a force like the spiritual sect. Disciples from powerful forces like the spiritual sect would have their aptitude tested at the age of 6 before choosing a suitable cultivation technique to cultivate. However, Yun Xingya was born in the secular world. Therefore, she would only undergo the aptitude test when she was 10 years old. Chapter 274. Comparatively speaking, the members of the Steel Flame Legion were luckier. Not only do they have the marrow cleansing potion to improve their innate talents, they also have the spirit gathering potion to increase their powers. Hence, these people were able to grow to such a level in just half a year. Needless to say, the ranks before high spiritualists were relatively ordinary, and it was easier for them to break through. On the other hand, once one became a high spiritualist, it would be extremely difficult for one to cultivate in the future, and every step one took would be like climbing a mountain. Idiot. Tian Ke glanced coldly at Mu Xingqiu, and a look of disdain flashed across her eyes. She had sensed the strength of the Steel Raging Flame Legion the moment they had appeared. She had not expected Mu Xingqiu to be so fearless as to show off here. However, Tian Ke squinted her eyes and looked at the handsome man and beautiful woman in the carriage. She took a deep breath in her heart. These two people gave her a very dangerous feeling. That callous man's strength made her somewhat afraid, but as for the beautiful white-clothed girl, her aura made her feel very dangerous. It was as if he would step into the trap that she had set up if he was not careful, causing him to be consigned to eternal damnation. You two, please do me a favor. I must take this Mu Wuxuan with me, you can deal with the others as you please. Tianke cupped her fists and said. Yun Luofeng gently raised his eyebrows. I still have some debts to settle with Mu Wuxuan, so I can only let her stay. Miss Yun, Tian Ke's face sank slightly and her tone became unfriendly, you better think this through. It's not worth it to become enemies with my Tian family. I heard that you are also a doctor. If you let me take Mu Wuxuan away, if there is anything you don't understand in the future, you can come to the Tian Jia and ask me for advice. I will certainly tell you everything I know. Miss Tianke. Mu Wuxuan was a little anxious. Yun Luofeng is not a good thing. How can you let her go to the Tian family? You. Shut up. Tian Ke looked at Mu Wuxuan coldly. Do I need your permission to do things? Who do you think you are? Without me, Tianke, you are nothing. Mu Wuxuan closed her mouth. Her beautiful eyes were filled with unwillingness and anger as she stared at Yun Luofeng. Why was Tian Ke so overbearing in front of him? When facing Yun Luofeng, his attitude changed. No. She couldn't accept this. She was not willing to lose to Yun Luofeng no matter what. Seeing Mu Wuxuan being scolded by Tian Ke, Mu Wuchen couldn't help but laugh mockingly. Mu Wuxuan, the only people who really cared about you were me and grandfather. You think that you've hugged someone's thigh, but in fact, in other people's hearts, you're nothing. Huh, Mu Wuxuan sneered, even if I'm a dog of the Tian family, I'm still better than the eldest daughter of the Prime Minister's mansion. At least, as a dog, she also had the opportunity to bully others. Moreover, with Tian Ke and Tian Yu's protection, Yun Luofeng wouldn't be able to kill her even if he wanted to. Thinking of this, Mu Wuxuan no longer spoke, silently standing beside Tian Ke, but the way she looked at Yun Luofeng was still filled with hatred. The look in his eyes was as if he couldn't wait to tear the other party into pieces. You can leave if you want, a pair of evil black eyes swept over Tian Ke, Yun Luofeng's lips curled up, but Mu Wuxuan must stay. She still said the same thing, Mu Wuxuan must stay here. Tian Ke's face suddenly changed. What if I want to forcibly take Mu Wuxuan away? Chapter 275. I'm sorry, then you can only stay together. The girl's voice was arrogant and confident, causing Tian Ke's fists to clench tightly. Her whole body's imposing manner emerged, but just as she was about to make a move, Tian Yu, who had not spoken since the beginning, reached out and stopped her. Miss Yun, Tian Yu turned to look at Yun Luofeng, her eyes cold. Our Tian family didn't know about the grudge between you and Mu Wuxuan at first, that's why we wanted to come and take him away. Since Miss Yun has a grudge against him, then I'll do you a favor today. I'll leave Mu Wushwang to you. Tianyu? Tianku froze for a moment, looking at Tianyu with a puzzled expression, her eyes filled with anxiety. But, my medicine man, Tianku. Tianyu's eyebrows sank, speaking in a voice that only the two of them could hear. Mu Wushwang's physique is indeed special, but in this world, he's not the only one who is suitable to be a high-level medicine man. It's not worth offending these two people for him. A wise man submits to circumstances. Even if their Tian family has Tianya, who is famous throughout the continent, so what? After all, Tianya isn't here. If they were to confront these people head-on, there would definitely not be a good end. Therefore, Tianyu had made this decision decisively. On the palanquin, Yun Luofeng crossed his legs, his fingers gently tapping on his thighs. This Mu Wushwang must stay, but you want me to do you a favor? My favor is very precious, I'm afraid you can't afford it. You. Tianku's cold eyes gradually filled with a touch of anger. Don't go too far. Tianyu, he's our Tian family's. Tianku. Tianyu glanced at Tianku indifferently, interrupting her words before turning her gaze to Yun Luofeng. Miss Yun, what do you want? Yun Luofeng gently raised his chin, a wild smile on his beautiful face. I want you to owe me a favor. All right, Tianyu took a deep breath. I promise you. Tianyu. Tianku cried out involuntarily. As soon as her voice fell, Tianyu grabbed her arm and said, let's go. In this place, he felt like there was a dagger on his back. Even though that grim black-clothed man had maintained his silence since he appeared here, but his incomparably sharp gaze was still staring straight at him. If he were to stay a moment longer, he would definitely not be able to withstand the man's gaze and fall to the ground. This is why he gave up on Mu Wushwang. That was especially true when he said that Yun Luofeng owed him a favor. At that moment, he felt as if his breathing had stopped, as if he would die in an instant. This callous man was too terrifying, so terrifying that it made people's hearts tremble. No. Mu Wushwang didn't know what happened. Why did the two people from the Tian family abandon her? Shocked, she hurriedly ran to Tianku, grabbed her sleeve, and said anxiously, Miss Tianku, don't go. Don't leave me behind. After I enter the Tian family, I will definitely train hard and not let you guys down. Cultivate? Tianka sneered and kicked Mu Wushwang's body to the ground. With a cold face, she said, you still want to go to the Tian family to cultivate? Dream on. Do you really think that I came here to pick you up because of your talent? Why don't you look at yourself in the mirror? Do you really think that you can become a master? To tell you the truth, it's mainly because your physique is suitable to be my high-level medicine man. That's why I plan to bring you into the Tian family. Otherwise, you'll never be qualified to step into that kind of place. At this moment, Tianku vented all her anger towards Yun Luofeng onto Mu Wushwang's head. Chapter 276. Mu Wushwang's body trembled slightly. Her beautiful eyes were filled with pain as she looked at Tianku. Her beautiful face was pale and her eyes were full of despair. Miss Tianku, what did you just say? Even now, she still couldn't believe that the people of the Tian family came to pick her up just to turn her into a medicine person. Mu Wushwang, don't you understand? Tianku raised her cold face, her eyebrows filled with arrogance. I thought what I said was easy to understand. I didn't expect you to be so stupid that you can't understand. Who do you think you are? You are someone who can abandon your family for your own sake. Why would the Tian family use you? Raising you is equivalent to raising a white-eyed wolf. Mu Wushwang's body trembled more and more. She struggled to climb up from the ground and clenched her fists tightly. Miss Tianku, you said that if I become a member of the Tian family, I shouldn't care about the life and death of others. I'm just following the orders of the Tian family. What's wrong with that? Hearing Mu Wushwang's almost crazy words, Tianku sarcastically raised the corner of her lips. Yes, these words are indeed what I said. However, whether you do it or not is your business. A person who will abandon her family will definitely betray the Tian family in the future. What do you think you are important? As if struck by lightning, Mu Wushwang's footsteps staggered a few times. She used her arm to support a big tree next to her so that her body didn't collapse. What is a medicine person? As a doctor, it's impossible for Mu Wuxuan not to know. This medicine person is a person who tests medicine. Some doctors will have some medicine people in their hands to test medicine for them. And whether the medicine person lives or dies depends on the doctor's ability. What's funny is that the Tian family came to find her just to turn her into a medicine person. And she, in order to enter the Tian family, betrayed her loved ones. No. Mu Wuxuan screamed her lungs out. Her voice was mournful and 2 lines of tears of despair slowly flowed down from her beautiful eyes. Not willing. She was not willing to fail here. She hasn't stood at the peak of the continent yet. She hasn't seen the divine Dr. Tian Yi yet. How could she be willing to fall in front of Yun Luofeng? Tian Ku, let's go. Tian Yu looked coldly at Mu Wuxuan, then retracted her gaze and said to Tian Ku beside her. Tian Ku nodded lightly and followed Tian Yu's footsteps as they walked out of the courtyard. When she reached Yun Luofeng's side, she paused and deliberately lowered her voice before she said, "This time, on account of Tian Yu's face, I don't want to argue with you. However, if I ever meet you again, I won't let you off so easily." Yun Luofeng gently raised his eyebrows, his pitch-black eyes containing a demonic smile. "Sure. As long as you have the strength." Even though she was smiling, her tone was incomparably arrogant, causing Tian Ku's expression to change drastically. She tightened her grip on the hilt of her sword and took a deep breath to suppress the anger that was surging out of her heart. In the end, Tianka strode out of the courtyard without looking back. No. Looking at the disappearing figures of the two, Mu Wuxuan finally felt fear and quickly rushed over. "Miss Tianka, I was wrong, don't go." Puchi. Before she had time to rush out, a beautiful figure flashed by and a palm fell on Mu Wuxuan's chest. Suddenly, her body flew out again and fell to the ground. Chapter 277. Qing Yan stood in front of Mu Wuxuan with a mocking look in her eyes. "Mu Wuxuan, it's time for you to pay back how you bullied my young lady in the past." Bang! Mu Wuxuan was just about to open her mouth to speak when another palm wind fell. In an instant, her body was sent flying. Blood continuously spurted from her mouth. Silence. The entire Prime Minister's mansion was dead silent. As Yun Luofeng's personal maidservant, Qin Yan's capabilities were something that no one didn't know. Who knew, the unknown little maid suddenly had the cultivation base of a rudimentary high spiritualist. What could be more shocking than this? At this moment, Mu Wuxuan was no longer in the mood to pay attention to Qin Yan's strength. Her eyes were filled with despair as she stared in the direction where the 2 men from the Tian family had disappeared. Her heart suddenly sank to the bottom. An unprecedented fear invaded her heart. She hurriedly crawled up from the ground and quickly ran towards Mu Xingqiu. "Grandfather, I know I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Please save me. Go to the imperial palace and beg the empress. As long as the empress asks, His Majesty will definitely save me." Mu Xingqiu closed his eyes. After calming himself down, he opened them again. His eyes were filled with disappointment. "Wuxuan, if you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? Previously, it was you who abandoned the Mu clan first. Now, the Tian clan abandoned you, and you're asking me to save you? I just want to know, how can I save you?" Hearing Mu Xingqiu's words, Mu Wuxuan thought that Mu Xingqiu was still thinking about his familial ties and his eyes suddenly lit up. Long Yuan country has the backing of the spirit sect. Go to the palace and ask the empress to save my life. His Majesty dotes on the empress the most, he will definitely save me for her sake. If your Majesty is willing to save me, you can invite the experts of the spiritual gate. This way, that slut Yun Luofeng won't be able to kill me. Mu Xingqiu was Mu Wuxuan's last hope. Therefore, she firmly grabbed onto him, her beautiful eyes filled with pleading. "Wuxuan, I can't save you." Mu Xingqiu shook his head. "Not to mention me, even His Majesty can't save you, let alone our Mu clan." "Grandfather." Mu Wuxuan screamed and said angrily, "I'm your granddaughter, how can you not save me? I know you have a way to save me. You can't just watch them die. Otherwise, the spirits of my parents in heaven will never let you off. Pa. Mu Wuchen raised his hand and slapped Mu Wuxuan, his expression cold as he said, Mu Wuxuan, it was you who betrayed the family first. What right do you have to blame others for not helping you? Not only did this slap not calm Mu Wuxuan down, but it also made her even crazier, her whole body twisted. You people from the Mu Jia are not good people either. Sooner or later, I'll make all of you pay the price, ha ha ha. She laughed maniacally 3 times, and her hateful eyes slowly turned towards Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng, you can't kill me. Otherwise, the Ghost Emperor won't let you off. Ghost Emperor? When Mu Wuxuan said this, he didn't notice Yun Zhao's suddenly cold expression, his pair of cold eyes surging with murderous intent. Yun Luofeng, you probably don't know, right? The reason why Gao Ling was sent to the bamboo house was because the Ghost Emperor took a fancy to me, and Gao Ling wanted to compete with him for me, so the Ghost Emperor threw him to the bamboo house. Therefore, if you dare to touch a single hair on my head, the Ghost Emperor will definitely not forgive you. Mu Wuxuan sneered, there was no longer any fear on his face, instead, it was replaced with pride. Chapter 278. Plop. Just as Mu Wuxuan finished speaking, a figure dressed in a grey robe suddenly fell from the ancient tree in the courtyard and landed in the middle of the crowd. Air. I'm sorry, Qin Yuan smiled sheepishly as he got up. I couldn't control myself and rolled down. Because his master did not like him to appear in public, he had hidden in the tree. He did not expect to suddenly hear Mu Wuxuan's self-righteous words. He was so shocked that he accidentally fell from the tree. Who are you? Mu Xingqiu's expression changed. He did not expect that there would be someone watching from the shadows when the Mu family and the Yun family were at loggerheads. And he had not noticed. Just how powerful was this man? Are you asking me? Qin Yuan turned to Mu Xingqiu and chuckled. The crown prince of Long Yuan country should know who I am. I was the one who sent him to the bamboo house and sold him for a good price. TSK, I have to say that the crown prince has an excellent figure. The customers at the bamboo house liked him very much. Of course, no matter how good the crown prince's figure was, he could not be compared to his master. You're the Ghost Emperor's subordinate? Mu Wuxuan was overjoyed when he heard Qin Yuan's words. Are you here to save me? Qin Yuan laughed awkwardly and said, Are you misunderstanding something? My master is not close to you, why did he ask me to save you? Not close? These 2 words caused Mu Wuxuan's expression to change. If he doesn't like me, why did he fight with the crown prince for my sake? Qin Yuan's face was still full of smiles. However, his eyes were filled with mockery. My master likes Yun Luofeng from the Yun family. He's not fighting with Gao Ling for his affections. It's just that Gao Ling is too annoying. He keeps pestering our future mistress. So my master asked me to send him to the bamboo house so that he can have some peace and quiet for a while. Fighting for his affections? Someone like Gao Ling is not worthy enough for my master to fight for his affections. My master's actions that day were just to chase away a fly that was pestering his mistress. How is this fighting for her affections? Whoosh! Mu Wuxuan's face instantly became incomparably pale. She took a few more steps back, and with a bang, her butt fell to the ground. Her complexion had also changed from its initial pale complexion to the gray of a dead person. The person the Ghost Emperor liked was Yun Luofeng? Why? Why was Yun Luofeng's luck always so good? Even the Ghost Emperor loved her deeply. It was laughable that he thought that the Ghost Emperor had taken a liking to him. Suddenly, Mu Wuxuan seemed to think of something, his hoarse voice with a hint of madness. Ha ha ha. The Ghost Emperor actually liked Yun Luofeng. What a pity, what a pity. Yun Luofeng, that slut, had an illicit relationship with a guard and has long since lost her chastity. I want to see how your Ghost Emperor will continue to like her. Hearing Mu Wuxuan's crazy words, Qin Yuan carefully glanced at the cold man sitting on the palanquin, cold sweat breaking out all over his body. He knew that he had handled things improperly at the beginning, causing Mu Wuxuang to misunderstand that the person the master liked was him. This matter will inevitably make the master very dissatisfied. But how could he have thought that a woman would be narcissistic to such an extent? As if sensing the man's murderous intent growing stronger, Qin Yuan shrank his neck in fear. Afraid that he would be implicated, he immediately turned to look at the laughing Mu Wuxuang and said sarcastically, "I'm sorry, the guard that you said had an illicit relationship with Miss Yun is my master." Chapter 279. Qin Yuan had deliberately lowered his voice when he said this. This was because he knows that his master does not want to reveal his identity. Otherwise, based on the selfish nature of the Shao family, they would never give up the opportunity to pester his master. However, even though his voice was extremely low, Yun Luofeng's ears could still hear it clearly. She gently raised her brow and turned towards the grim and handsome man next to her. Her narrowed black eyes flashed with a dangerous light. "Yun Shao, go back and explain to me what's going on." Yun Shao was startled and nodded, "All right." At this moment, in the courtyard of the Prime Minister's mansion, Mu Wuxuang's entire being was frozen in place like a statue. Her eyes stared sluggishly at Qin Yuan, who was standing in front of her as if she had yet to recover from the shock of the other party's words. "Impossible, he's just a guard. How could he possibly be?" Her voice trembled and even her chest heaved violently. Her grayish-white face was completely devoid of color. However, before she could finish her sentence, she was interrupted by Qin Yuan's mocking voice. "Who had asked my mistress to be so outstanding that my master would willingly accompany her? Of course, in this regard, even if you exhaust your entire life, you would never be able to match up to her." Qin Yuan's words were like a sharp thorn which pierced fiercely into Mu Wuxuang's heart. Her eyes, which had originally been filled with despair, were now filled with hatred and anger. In the beginning, she had thought that the Ghost Emperor was just an ugly man, which was why he had used a mask. She never thought that the Ghost Emperor would not only be so grim and handsome, he was so perfect that it made one's heart pound. Most importantly, he was infatuated with Yun Luofeng. This was an advantage that all men in the world lacked. But why would such an outstanding man only set his eyes on Yun Luofeng? In what way was she inferior to Yun Luofeng? Especially this Ghost Emperor, for the sake of a woman, he had willingly come to her side and become her guard. All of a sudden, Mu Wuxuang thought back to the humiliation she had shown Yun Shao in the beginning. At that time, she had even humiliated him, saying that a little guard was not even qualified to look at her. However, she never thought that this little guard would be such a famous existence. Thinking of this, Mu Wuxuang wanted to slap himself hard in the face. If she hadn't humiliated Yun Shao back then, would the Ghost Emperor have shown her some tender and protective feelings, and she wouldn't have ended up in her current situation? Obviously, Mu Wuxuang thought too much. Even if she didn't say those words, in Yun Zhao's mind, she was still an existence that must die. Who asked her to offend Yun Luofeng? Anyone who offended Yun Luofeng deserved to die. Mu Wuxuan. Qin Yuan curled his lips and his eyes were filled with mockery. "You and Gao Ling are a perfect match. Both of you are idiots." They were truly a match made in heaven. "Only Jailing would be interested in a woman like you. But it's good that he's like this. My master has found a treasure." As if afraid that the anger in Mu Wuxuang's heart was not big enough, Qin Yuan continued to stab her with flowers. His disdainful voice was like a sharp thorn, piercing her heart with thousands of holes and dripping with blood. Then, Mu Wuxuang's face twisted with jealousy and he threw himself towards the palanquin. "Yun Luofeng, you slut, I'm going to kill you. It's all your fault. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be in this situation. It's all your fault." Chapter 280. Pfft. However, before Mu Wuxuan could reach Yun Luofeng, a sharp sword suddenly pierced through her chest. Fresh blood instantly bloomed like a rose, staining her robes red. Qin Yan coldly withdrew her long sword. Her delicate features carried a sneer. "Mu Wuxuan, have you forgotten how you had treated my lady? Now, you've just received your retribution." The little servant girl's words caused Mu Wuxuan's entire body to stiffen and tremble. She raised her head and stared at the young girl lying on the palanquin. A look of unwillingness appeared on her pale face. No. She could not die here, especially in front of Yun Luofeng. Grandfather. She turned her head with difficulty and looked at Mu Xingqiu with pleading eyes. Save me. Mu Xingqiu's eyes flashed with reluctance. Yun Luofeng, this time, the Yun family has won and won beautifully. All these years, the Yun family has been my mortal enemy. I've always been against you and now I'm tired. Mortal enemy? Yun Luofeng curled her lips. I'm sorry, the Mu family is only a stepping stone for me. You're not qualified to be my mortal enemy. If it had been in the past, Mu Xingqiu would have quarreled with Yun Luofeng after hearing her arrogant words. But now, his heart has sunk to the bottom of the valley. He took a deep breath and said, Yun Luofeng, I can cut my throat in front of you, but I only ask that you leave Mu Wuxuan's corpse intact. Qin Yan's attack had deliberately avoided Mu Wuxuan's vital points. Her aim was obvious, she wanted to keep Mu Wuxuan's life to torture him. However, he couldn't bear to see his most beloved granddaughter being tortured by others. Even if Mu Wuxuan had betrayed the Mu family first. You want to talk terms with me? The smile on Yun Luofeng's lips contained a hint of evil. Her pitch-black eyes fell upon Mu Xingqiu's deathly pale face. Do you think you're qualified? Mu Xingqiu smiled bitterly. Yun Luofeng, I'm begging you. Leave my granddaughter's corpse intact and let her die without any pain. He did not beg Yun Luofeng to spare Mu Wuxuan because that was simply impossible. Therefore, he only asked her to leave Mu Wuxuan's corpse intact. As a grandfather, this was the only thing he could do. Grandfather. Mu Xingqiu's voice was weak, but her beautiful eyes were filled with despair. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die, Grandpa. Mu Xingqiu's expression was somewhat pained. However, in the end, he ignored Mu Wuxuan's pleading voice and calmly stared at Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng, if you promise me, I will immediately commit suicide. Yun Luofeng's black eyes evilly glanced at Mu Xingqiu. He curled his lips and said, Mu Xingqiu, do you still remember what you said before? Mu Xingqiu's body stiffened, and his aged face became even paler. You once told my old man that the Mu family first had imperial concubine Mu, and now you have the crown prince's imperial concubine, Mu Wuxuan. Therefore, the Mu family is destined to step on the Yun family's head forever. Mu, and we do, we will Mu, you told my old man that the Mu family has concubine Mu and now, Mu Wuxuan, the crown princess. Therefore, the Mu family is destined to always be above the Yun family. I will only use my own strength to decide my own fate. Chapter 281. Mu Xingqiu closed his eyes. He recalled how he had ridiculed Yun Luo in the past and found it laughable. That's right. The Mu clan had indeed produced two outstanding women who could be sent to the royal family. Especially Mu Wuxuan, she was the future mother of the nation. Mother of the world. The Yun clan had nothing. Even Yun Luofeng, who was previously engaged to the crown prince, had been annulled. However, so what if the Mu clan's women were outstanding? Didn't they still need to cling on to the royal family to survive? The Yun clan, on the other hand, had unknowingly trampled on the royal family. Yun Luofeng, do you really not care about old ties? Mu Xingqiu opened his eyes and spoke in an overbearing manner. Your grandfather and I are both officials of the imperial court. Why must you be so excessive? Old ties? Yun Luofeng smiled. Her smile was filled with mockery as she said, what old ties do I have with the Mu clan? You leaked military intelligence and caused the deaths of my parents. You should have known that today's retribution would come. The heavens watch over the actions of a man. The Mu clan's current outcome was the retribution they deserved. He. Mu Xingqiu laughed coldly. He looked at Mu Wuxuan and sighed, Wuxuan, I've been too lenient with you all these years. That's why you've done so many wrong things and even betrayed the clan. However, no matter what you've done, you're still part of the Mu clan's bloodline. I originally wanted to let you die painlessly, but it seems that's no longer possible. After saying this, Mu Xingqiu turned to Mu Wuchen and said, if you don't want to suffer too much pain, then kill yourself like I did. Mu Xingqiu no longer hesitated. He pulled out his sword and plunged it into his heart without hesitation. Pfft! Fresh blood spurted out and dyed the entire ground red. Mu Xingqiu's body trembled slightly before he slowly fell to the ground. Grandfather. Mu Wuchen's eyes instantly turned red. He glared fiercely at Yun Luofeng and said, Yun Luofeng, you're no better off than the Mu clan. You've killed so many people. You'll get your retribution. Once you die, you'll definitely enter the 18 levels of hell. Retribution? Yun Luofeng raised her eyebrows. Her words were arrogant and unruly, and her eyes were filled with insolence that did not place the world in her eyes. If I don't go to hell, who will? Wait till I go to hell, I will kill all of you again. Humph. Mu Wuchen coldly snorted, at that time, let's see who kills who. Yun Luofeng, I'll wait for you in hell. Bang! Mu Wuchen raised his palm and slammed it against the top of his head. In an instant, the top of his head was smashed into pieces. His brain and blood mixed together and gradually flowed down from the top of his head. It stood to reason that Mu Wuchen was just arrogant and vicious in his words. He did not participate in anything that Mu Wushang and Mu Xingqiu had planned. At most, he helped Mu Wushang deal with some women who pestered the crown prince. But Yun Luofeng still did not plan on letting him off. Weeds must be cut by the roots. If Mu Wuchen was allowed to live, with his hatred towards her, he would definitely do something to harm the general's residence in the future. It was impossible for her to stay in the general's mansion forever. For the sake of her loved ones, she would not regret it even if she was reviled by thousands of people. Yun Luofeng glanced at the two bodies on the ground and then turned her eyes to Mu Wushang. I'll give you a chance. You can choose to commit suicide like them, or, let me finish you. Of course, if you choose the latter, even if you can't bear it and want to commit suicide in the future, you won't be able to. Chapter 282. Mu Wushang's body trembled. She looked at Mu Xingqiu and Mu Wuchen who were lying on the ground, her eyes revealing a trace of horror. No, I don't want to die. I want to live. Even ants know how to live, let alone the greedy and cowardly Mu Wushang. Therefore, it was impossible for someone like her to commit suicide. I've already given you a choice. Yun Luofeng paused, then continued, so, in the future, even if you want to commit suicide, you won't be able to. Mu Shen, I'll leave her in your care, I believe you won't let me down. Mu Shen. Hearing this, Mu Wushang's eyes showed a touch of surprise. She looked up at the young man who was walking towards her. The young man's face was very calm, no longer showing his usual playboy character. His eyes were filled with deep hatred. He sneered at the stunned Mu Wushang. Mu Wushang, you probably didn't think that there would be a day like this, ha ha ha. In the beginning, Mu Wushang, who was aloof and did not put anyone in her heart, now could only put down all her attitude and humbly beg for mercy. Speaking of which, it was really ridiculous. Mu Shen. Mu Wushang was stunned, staring at the young man who appeared in front of her. How could it be you? Did you bring Yun Luofeng and the others here? Mu Shen's lips curled up, he smiled mockingly, that's right. These two words completely made Mu Wushang fall into madness. Her face twisted, she shouted angrily, Mu Shen, you traitor of the Mu clan, you will die a horrible death. If it wasn't for Yun Luofeng suddenly appearing here, maybe she would have already left with the two people from the Tian clan. Even if she entered the Tian clan and became a medicine person, it would be better than falling into the hands of Yun Luofeng. After all, as a medicine person, as long as she was given a chance, she could trample Tianku under her feet, she could even replace her. But now, all her great dreams have been shattered, all because of this traitor Mu Shen. Traitor? Mu Shen sneered, I'm indeed a traitor of the Mu clan, but you're not any better. Grandfather loves you so much, he gave you all the good things since you were young, but you don't care about his life. Are you not a traitor? The young man's words pierced the heart, making Mu Wushang's heart violently tremble. Suddenly, she knelt down in front of Mu Shen, her hands tightly clasped around his thighs, and pleaded, Mu Shen, please let me go, for the sake of our family, please let me go this time, I will repay you in the future. Mu Shen closed his eyes. When he opened them again, the hatred in his eyes turned into mockery. Mu Wuxuan, you killed my biological sister. Just this alone is enough for me to take revenge on you. Mu Wuxuan's hand gradually loosened and, you. Shen. Mu of a Shen's Mu. She knew that this time, she was definitely finished. Shen, you, of you, 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 Chen, to, of a, of, moot, to, you, mu, to, of a, to, only you, can take my life. He no longer addressed Yun Luofeng as a genius doctor, nor as Miss Yun, but directly addressed her as master. The meaning behind his words is very clear. Chapter 283. Facing Mu Shen, who had expressed his loyalty, Yun Luofeng nodded his head lightly. Mu Shen, I will not care about Mu Wuxuang's matters in the future. How you deal with her is your problem. With your hatred towards her, it will definitely be better than me dealing with her personally. Yun Luofeng was right, Mu Wuxuang had fallen into Mu Shen's hands and could only be tortured to death. Even committing suicide was a luxury for her, and the days of her life would become an eternal nightmare for Mu Wuxuang. The matter with the Mu family has been dealt with, now we're going to the palace. Yun Luofeng slightly lowered his eyes, the corners of his mouth raised in an evil smile. That dog emperor, it's time to step down. Palace courtyard. In the strict imperial study, Gao Tu was discussing matters with Gao Ling. Concubine Mu looked at Gao Tu gently from the side and took over the palace maid's work, pouring a cup of tea for Gao Tu from time to time. Your Majesty, something bad has happened. Suddenly, a hurried voice sounded from outside the imperial study. The eunuch did not wait for anyone to report and stumbled into the room. Gao Tu's face darkened. Eunuch Lu, how can you be so reckless? Your Majesty, something bad has happened. Eunuch Lu wiped the sweat from his forehead and said anxiously, Yun Luofeng of the Yun family has captured someone and is here to force the emperor to abdicate. What? Bang! Gao Tu slammed his palm on the table and stood up from the dragon throne, his face ashen. Yun Luofeng? How dare she? How dare she come to force the emperor to abdicate? Does she want me to abdicate so that she can become the emperor? What a joke. It's not her turn to make decisions in Long Yuan country. Your Majesty. Concubine Mu hurriedly stood up and gently stroked Gao Tu's chest, her face full of tenderness. Please calm your anger. Even though I know that the Yun family doesn't know what's good for them, I didn't expect Yun Luofeng to be so ambitious. Don't worry, since ancient times, evil has never prevailed over good. With Yun Luofeng's strength, he doesn't have the ability to go against the millions of soldiers of the imperial family. Hearing imperial concubine Mu's words, Gao Tu's expression improved slightly. He fiercely flung his sleeves and walked out of the imperial study with an ashen face. Gao Ling furrowed his brows. He felt that something was amiss, but he couldn't pinpoint what it was. He stopped thinking about it and followed behind Gao Tuesday. Swish swish swish. Just as they stepped out of the imperial study, a group of people came from the front and surrounded the entire imperial study. As for the guards in the palace, all of them collapsed to the ground, clutching their stomachs as they wailed in pain. Yun Luofeng. How dare you? Gao Ling's face was ashen and he glared at the young girl who was lying lazily in the sedan. He scolded her sternly, who gave you the guts to force me to abdicate? Inside the sedan, Yun Zhao's grim eyes swept across Gao Tuesday. She then picked up a grape from the fruit platter and brought it to Yun Luofeng's mouth. Yun Luofeng gently sucked on Yun Zhao's finger and licked the tip of her finger. His eyes were filled with mirth as he stared devilishly at Gao Tu. I was born with great guts, so I don't need anyone to give me that. You. Gao Tu pointed angrily at Yun Luofeng. We never thought that the Yun family would be so ambitious. Tell us, does Yun Luo want to be the emperor, or do you want to be the emperor? Yun Luofeng laughed. my apologies, I'm not interested in your throne. Chapter 284. Gao Tu's eyes darkened. Since you have no interest in my throne, what are you doing here? Hearing this, Yun Luofeng's arms rested lazily on the palanquin's handle. He raised his lips and said, "It's just that. I don't like you. That's all. I don't like you, so I want you to step down as the emperor. What can you do to me?" Gao Tu nearly went mad with anger. He had always thought that he was arrogant enough, but compared to this young girl, he finally understood what it meant to be arrogant and unruly. Apart from this young girl, who else could be so insolent that she did not put the world in her eyes? Yun Luofeng, you're simply too impudent. Guards, take her down. Gao Tu roared and ordered in a cold voice. However, after he spoke, no one came. In the entire palace, only the cries of the guards could be heard. Guards. Gao Tu's expression changed again and he continued to shout, "Where the hell are all of you? Hurry up and take her down." The autumn wind rustled and leaves fluttered in the air. A maple leaf floated down in front of Gao Tu, making him look so lonely and sorrowful. No one will come to save you even if you scream until your throat is hoarse. The young girl's voice was filled with evil. Anyone who did not know better would have thought that she was going to do something worse than an animal to Gao Tuesday, Yun Luofeng. Gao Tu gritted his teeth hatefully. His heart wrenched fiercely. What on earth have you done? He did not know what had happened. Even though many guards had fallen to the ground, there were more than a handful of guards in the imperial palace. Why were the others nowhere to be seen? All the guards in the imperial palace had been taken down by my men. Yun Luofeng's lips curved in a demonic manner. No one will come to save you. At this moment, Gao Tu's face turned completely pale and he staggered. Fortunately, Imperial concubine Mu supported him from behind so that he did not fall. Gao Ling, Yun Luofeng turned to look at Gao Ling. "I wonder if you recognize the people around me?" Gao Ling, who hadn't paid much attention to Yun Luofeng's words, turned to look at her subordinates. If these people had appeared in front of him on their own, Gao Ling might not have thought of them. However, now that these people were connected to Yun Luofeng, Gao Ling could not help but fall into deep thought. Are these the guards and servant girls that I helped Yun Luo recruit? Gao Ling hesitated for a moment before asking. After all, no one knew the talents of those people better than him. How could they be the well-trained soldiers in front of him? He would never believe it. However, Yun Luofeng's following reply caused his heart to instantly fall into a freezer. "That's right. I should be thanking you. If it weren't for you, my Yun family wouldn't have been able to recruit so many people so quickly." Gao Ling's face turned from pale to deathly pale. He clenched his trembling hands tightly as his entire body trembled in the wind. "Impossible, the people I found for you were all trash. They wouldn't be able to make much progress even if they worked their entire lives. How could it be these people?" Gao Ling's voice was filled with madness and his eyes were filled with disbelief. No one knew these people's abilities better than he did. That was why he refused to believe it no matter what. Chapter 285. Trash. Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a smile, his arrogant and domineering eyes filled with confidence. "In my eyes, no one is a piece of trash. Everyone is divided into those who are willing to work hard and those who are unwilling to work hard. As long as one is willing to work hard, even if his talent is inferior to ordinary people, he can still break through extremely quickly. No one was truly useless." His words stirred the hearts of everyone in the Iron Flame Legion. That's right. No one was useless. As long as they put in the effort and hardships, even if their talent was low, they could still stand at the peak of the continent. "Master is right," Zhong Linger stood up, her adorable doll face filled with determination. "We are not worse than those so-called geniuses, at least we are willing to put in more hardships and efforts than ordinary people." In the past half a year, the members of the army had made rapid breakthroughs. This was not only due to the medicinal liquid. After all, the medicinal liquid was only an auxiliary function. What had truly caused their growth was the sweat that they had put in. For the past half a year, countless days and nights had passed. They had been cultivating tirelessly, forgetting to eat and sleep. No one was willing to fall behind. It was because of their hard work that they had come this far. After saying that, Zhong Linger's aura burst out. At the same time, the others also released their power, covering the sky above the imperial palace. High Spiritualist. 10 High Spiritualists. Gao Ling stumbled a few steps back. His entire body slammed heavily into the wall with a loud thud. His pale face was filled with shock and astonishment. How did this happen? Even if you have the ability to turn them from good-for-nothings into geniuses, breaking through to high spiritualists in just half a year isn't something that humans can do. God? Suddenly, this word appeared in Gao Ling's mind. He looked at Yun Luofeng with fear in his eyes. This woman was God. Otherwise, how could that bunch of trash break through so quickly? It was a good thing that Yun Luofeng himself was still trash. Otherwise, this Yun family would really be heaven-defying. Gao Ling, you idiot. Gao Tu finally regained his senses and slapped Gao Ling across the face. Even when Gao Ling's reputation was in shambles, he did not teach him a lesson. But now, because of the Yun family's misfortune, he could not help but strike. His handsome face was ashen. These are the trash you recruited for the Yun family? Gao Ling's body trembled as he smiled bitterly. He knew that no matter what explanation he gave, it would be useless. His imperial father would not believe him. Honestly, the strength of this group of people was too shocking. How could they believe that they were still trash half a year ago? Idiot. Fool. Gao Tu kicked Gao Ling in the chest and shouted, I knew you were stupid, but I didn't expect you to be this stupid. You actually sent these people to the Yun family. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have let you take over that position. After teaching Gao Ling a lesson, Gao Tu turned to look at Yun Luofeng and scoffed. Yun Luofeng, so what if you have so many high spiritualists? Our imperial family's greatest powerhouse is an advanced spiritualist. He must have found out that you're attacking the imperial palace, so he'll come to deal with you later. Ha ha ha. Gao Tu laughed maniacally, his eyes filled with malevolence. The reason why he was so fearless was because of the #1 expert of the imperial family. As long as he was around, anyone who killed anyone from the imperial palace would not be able to leave this place unscathed. Chapter 286. Furthermore, the royal family had the existence of the spiritual sect. No matter how strong you, Yun Luofeng, are, you can't compare to a colossus like the spiritual sect. Yun Luofeng's hand gently caressed the gold-seeking mouse milk tea that had come out of his sleeve. His slightly raised eyebrows showed a hint of coldness. All these years, my grandfather, as a general of Long Yuan country, has guarded the borders for many years. My parents have even sacrificed their lives for the country. However, as the emperor of a country, you are greedy for beauty, muddle-headed and tyrannical. Valuing a lowly person and despising a gentleman. How can you not hurt the feelings of your subjects? So, today, I am here on behalf of my grandfather to teach you a lesson. Hee hee. Just as the young girl finished speaking, an old and hollow laughter suddenly came from the direction of the rear courtyard. Immediately after, an old man with a white beard walked in front of Yun Luofeng with his hands behind his back. His steps were full of vigor, as if he was stepping on clouds. His voice was even faintly discernible as he said indifferently, Yun family's Luofeng, did that kid Yun Luo allow you to come to the palace to cause trouble, or was it your own idea? Even though his tone was very indifferent, his pair of old eyes were filled with arrogance. It was as if he did not place Yun Luofeng in his eyes at all. The young girl's entire body was leaning against Yun Zhao's chest. Her evil eyes contained a hint of a smile. Whether it was my old man who asked me to come or my own idea, it has nothing to do with you. I am here to make this dog emperor step down. Whoever dares to stop me, I will kill them. Arrogant, arrogant. Whoever dares to stop me, I will kill them. In the entire Long Yuan country, who would dare to say such domineering words in front of the strongest person in the royal family? Only Yun Luofeng. He really did not know if this woman was really arrogant and confident, or was she extremely stupid. Yun family's Luofeng, I don't care what the royal family has done to your Yun family, but you must know one thing. If the emperor wants the subject to die, the subject has no choice but to die. If you disobey the emperor's order, you will be committing the crime of rebellion. The old man's indifferent eyes looked down at Yun Luofeng. His hands were behind his back, his white robes fluttered in the wind. He had the demeanor of an immortal and was full of vigor. Yun Luofeng crossed his legs, slightly raised his arrogant eyes, and looked down at the old man. I only know one sentence: the winner is king, and the loser is a bandit. If Gao Tu fails, he can only be a bandit. I never knew that a king had to lower his head to a bandit. The old man narrowed his eyes and stared coldly at the young girl lying on the sedan. At this moment, the girl's attitude was arrogant and domineering. Her eyes were like a victorious queen, arrogant and unruly, looking down on the world. Looking at such a domineering girl, the old man suddenly felt a little uncertain. After all, Yun Luofeng's gaze was like that of a monarch. Let alone that idiot Gao Tu, even the sect master of the Spirit Gate didn't have such a gaze. However, as the guardian of the royal family, he could not back down no matter what. Yun Clan's Luofeng, with me here today, don't even think of harming a single hair on Gao Tu's head. Moreover, if I were to fight with your Yun Clan, there won't be any benefits for your Yun Clan. Why don't you give me some face and leave now? Hearing the old man's words, Yun Luofeng could not help but curl his lips once again. His slightly raised brows revealed a mocking expression. I wonder how much your face is worth. Are you really worthy of me giving you face? Her words were filled with provocation and arrogance, causing the old man's expression to instantly change. Chapter 287. It's not a good thing to be too arrogant. If you insist on acting rashly, I will have no choice but to teach you a lesson, you silly little girl. Whoosh! The old man's body suddenly turned into a gust of wind and appeared in front of Yun Luofeng in an instant. He hooked his hand like an eagle's claw, fierce and sharp. His eyes were filled with ruthlessness. Yun Luofeng smiled faintly at the old man's rapidly approaching figure. She did not even try to dodge, and her eyes were filled with smiles. Seeing the young girl's confident attitude, the old man became even more furious and his attacks became even more ferocious. It was as if he wanted to take Yun Luofeng's life in one move. However, just as the old man's hand was a millimeter away from Yun Luofeng's face, a wave of anger suddenly came from above, carrying with it an irresistible force. Who dares to hurt my granddaughter? Bang! A powerful force came from behind, ferocious and fierce. The old man could no longer care about Yun Luofeng in front of him. He hurriedly turned around to face the sudden aura behind him. With a bang, an explosive force spread out from his body. Dust rose up, covering the sky and covering the earth. At the same time, the grim-faced man on the palanquin slowly retracted his hand and continued to feed the fruit to Yun Luofeng as if nothing had happened. This number one cultivator of the royal family probably did not expect that he would be so close to death. If he had not reacted quickly enough to deal with Yun Luofeng, he might have already lost his life on the spot. Since Yun Luofeng had arrived, Yun Shao did not plan on taking action. After all, this was a grudge between the Yun family. When the Yun family had the ability to solve the problem, he only needed to watch from the side. If the Yun family could not solve the problem, then he would step in to help. Yun Luo. The old man's face sank when he saw the old man walking towards him. He said coldly, "Looks like you've come just in time. If it weren't for your timely arrival, your granddaughter would have been buried here." Yun Luo chuckled. "Lin Tian, you should be grateful that I've arrived just in time. Otherwise, you would have been the one buried here." His granddaughter had Yun Shao by her side. What was this old thing, Lin Tian? He could guarantee that this old thing would not even be able to lay a finger on his precious granddaughter. Honestly, this kid Yun Shao was really reassuring. However, he had wanted to compete with the most powerful cultivator in the imperial family for a long time. Therefore, he couldn't help but come to the imperial palace. Elder Lin, Gao Tu quickly walked to Lin Tian's side and glared hatefully at the mischievous Yun Luo. "This old thing wants to rebel." Please execute him immediately, Elder Lin, as a warning to others. Elder Lin frowned slightly. This Gao Tu was really an idiot. It was obvious that Yun Luo had come prepared. It would not be easy for him to kill him today. Elder Lin pondered for some time and asked, Yun Luo, have you become an intermediate high spiritualist? Not bad. Yun Luo raised his eyebrows and said proudly, my luck is pretty good. I just broke through to the intermediate high spiritualist not long ago. Therefore, I couldn't help but want to spar with you. Actually, the reason why Yun Luo was able to break through was because of the spirit fruit that Yun Luo Feng had given him. Although the old man loved to show off, he still knew his limits. He knew what he could say and what he couldn't. If the existence of the spirit fruit in his granddaughter's hands were to be made public, what awaited the Yun family would be a nightmare. Chapter 288. Sure enough, Lin Tian's face darkened when he heard Yun Luo's words and his eyes flickered with an obscure light. Elder Lin, what are you waiting for? Even if Yun Luo breaks through, he's only an intermediate high spiritualist. As an advanced high spiritualist, he's definitely not your opponent. Gao Tu became anxious when he saw Elder Lin's hesitation. He could not understand why Elder Lin was so hesitant when facing an intermediate high spiritualist. Elder Lin did not answer Gao Tu's question, but his expression did not look too good. Of course, he was not afraid of Yun Luo but the 100-man army beside Yun Luo Feng. Even though Yun Luo was not his opponent, it would not be a problem for him to hold him back for a while. During this time, the 100-man army could destroy the palace in an instant. When the spiritual gate finds out about this, they would definitely be furious and Elder Lin would be charged with the crime of failing to protect the palace. Yun Luo, the force behind me is the spiritual gate. Lin Tian took a deep breath and decided to tell the truth. Only a few people in the imperial family knew about the existence of the spiritual gate. Even the imperial concubine Mu did not know anything about the spiritual gate. Thus, he was sure that Yun Luo did not know about it. So what? Yun Luo sneered, I've known about this for a long time. Lin Tian's expression became colder, since you know about it, why are you still plotting a rebellion? Hee. Yun Luo curled his lips and laughed mockingly. That dog of an emperor, Gao Tu, is biased towards the Mu family. I would never forget that in order to save my Qinya, I had knelt in front of Jing Lin. Even then, he didn't order Jing Lin to save her. It was ridiculous that I had gone to guard the border for 10 years for such a person. Now, I've finally thought it through. Apart from destroying this incapable emperor, I'm also here to make Jing Lin repent for what he did that day. Boom. Suddenly, Yun Luo's pupils shrank and a domineering aura was released from his body. At this moment, he seemed to have become the famous general who guarded the borders a few months ago. Those who offend the Yun family, no matter who they are, must die. After saying this, Yun Luo clenched his fists and charged towards Lin Tian. His aura was monstrous and he was as sharp as an unsheathed sword. Lin Tian's expression darkened and he bent his hand into an eagle's claw to meet Yun Luo's attack. But, a little hamster came out of nowhere and crawled into his pants. With a howl, it bit on the tool he used to carry on his family line. Ah! Lin Tian let out a shrill shriek. He couldn't care less about Yun Luo, who was coming towards him. He grabbed his crotch with his eagle claw, wanting to squash the damned hamster into a meat patty. However, after it was done, the little hamster changed its target. It climbed up from Lin Tian's chest and used its sharp teeth to bite Lin Tian's chest again. Humph, this old bastard dared to bully this rat's master just now. Now, he even wanted to fight with master's grandfather. Dream on. In order to be able to eat more elixirs, I can't let you indulge. I must let Grandpa vent his anger. Bang! Just as Lin Tian was about to grab the little hamster, Yun Luo's fist landed on Lin Tian's stomach, causing him to take a few steps back. Yun Luo laughed heartily. Lin Tian, aren't you very awesome? Fight me if you can. Ha ha ha. Chapter 289. Lin Tian was in agony from the bite and roared angrily, if you're so capable, wait until I crush this hamster to death before I fight you. Yun Luo rolled his eyes. Even though he had come here to fight Lin Tian, he had only wanted to beat these people up to vent his anger. How could he let go of such a good opportunity? Was he stupid? What hamster? I didn't see it. Yun Luo lied through his teeth. Lin Tian, are you afraid of me? Is that why you're using such a low-level excuse? You. Lin Tian was so angry that his face turned pale. Yun Luo, you shameless villain, who's afraid of you? If this hamster had not burrowed into my clothes, would have beaten you to the ground in one breath. As he spoke, Lin Tian was bitten again. He could no longer care about Yun Luo and tore his clothes into pieces. Instantly, the little hamster's body was exposed to the sunlight. A hamster dares to attack me? You're looking for death. Lin Tian slammed his palm on his chest. As he had flown into a rage out of humiliation, he had used a lot of strength in his attack. However, the hamster's body was very agile, and before his palm could land, it had jumped onto his shoulder. Hence, not only had he failed to kill the little hamster, his chest had turned purple and he could not help but stumble a few steps back. TSK. Yun Luo grinned at the furious Lin Tian. You know that you can't defeat me, so you want to commit suicide? Lin Tian, I didn't think that you'd be such a coward. You don't even have the courage to fight. As compared to the pain in his body, Lin Tian was more furious at Yun Luo's words. He was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. His elderly body trembled as he said, Yun Luo, can't you see the hamster on my body? It's biting me, how am I supposed to fight you? Yun Luo replied in all seriousness, sorry, I'm blind. I can't see it. Pfft. As his injuries were not light and coupled with the provocation from Yun Luo's words, Lin Tian spat out a mouthful of black blood. His elderly face was now deathly pale. Yun Luo, you shameless bastard. This fellow must have done it on purpose. He did not believe that he could not see such a huge hamster. GG. The hamster squeaked twice and used its two sharp front teeth to bite Lin Tian's shoulder. Its bite was very forceful, and blood could be seen with a single bite. It was no wonder that Lin Tian no longer had the heart to fight with Yun Luo. Unfortunately, Yun Luo absolutely wouldn't let go of this kind of good opportunity to trample on him. Lin Tian, even if you don't have the courage to fight me today, I won't let go of the chance to fight you. So, let's have a fair fight. Both of us will be barehanded and will not use any weapons. Fair? You fucking have the nerve to talk about fairness in such a righteous manner? From the beginning to the end, he had never seen such a shameless person. This old fellow didn't even want his face anymore. What else could he say to him? Just as Lin Tian was about to face Yun Luo's attack, the little hamster that was hiding on his body bit him again. Due to the intense pain, Lin Tian's movements paused for a moment. At the same time, Yun Luo's fist landed firmly on his chest. With a loud bang, Lin Tian's body was sent flying and he spat out 3 liters of blood as he fell to the ground. His eyes were filled with rage as he said, Yun Luo. If you really have the ability, let me crush this hamster to death before I fight you. Just as Lin Tian's voice had fallen, Milk Tea strode towards Lin Tian on his short legs. He raised his little hamster's head and stared down at Lin Tian complacently. Chapter 290. Squeak squeak squeak. Milk Tea called out to Lin Tian twice. Her big round eyes were full of provocation. Her expression seemed to be saying, if you have the ability, come and pinch me to death. If you don't have the ability, then what are you doing? Damned hamster, you're the first one I'll kill. Lin Tian understood the emotions in Milk Tea's eyes. He roared and leaped up, his eagle claws reaching for Milk Tea's small body. Bang! Before Lin Tian's attack reached her, Milk Tea dodged it agilely. The eagle claws that were descending went straight into the ground. Then, a wail was suddenly heard. Damned hamster, don't run away if you have the ability. Lin Tian's hand was stuck in the ground. He felt a burning pain in his entire finger, and his face couldn't help but twist. His entire body emitted a monstrous aura, and it was obvious that he was extremely angry. Milk Tea turned around and called out to Lin Tian a few times. She seemed to be saying, "Don't run away. Am I stupid?" In his anger, Lin Tian didn't care about anything else. He bared his fangs and brandished his claws at Milk Tea, who was escaping quickly. Unfortunately, Lin Tian, who was chasing after Milk Tea, didn't feel Yun Luo's aura suddenly appear behind him. Bang! A powerful force assaulted Lin Tian from behind, causing him to stagger and fall flat on his face, sprawling on the ground. Then, he leaped up and turned around to attack Yun Luo. However, just as he gave up chasing after Milk Tea and attacked Yun Luo, Milk Tea, the little hamster, appeared out of nowhere. It slithered onto Lin Tian's back and opened its mouth to bite him. Ah! Lin Tian screamed in pain. He stretched his palm backward and grabbed Milk Tea, who was on his back. His hand was as slippery as if it was smeared with oil. The little hamster slipped through his palm and ran in the direction behind him. Lin Tian wanted to continue chasing after Milk Tea, but he had only taken a few steps when Yun Luo took the opportunity to attack him. When he wanted to find trouble with Yun Luo, Milk Tea ran out and attacked his back again. Facing this shameless human and hamster, Lin Tian went completely crazy. He roared angrily, and his disheveled hair was scattered behind him. He looked like a real lunatic. Ah ah ah. Yun Luo, I'm going to tear you and this damned hamster to pieces. Lin Tian's trousers had been shaken off by the berserk energy in his body. He waved his arms furiously as he charged towards Milk Tea. He no longer cared about Yun Luo, who was throwing punches at him from time to time. All he wanted to do was to squash this troublemaking little hamster to death. He knew that as long as the little hamster was alive, he would never have a fair fight with Yun Luo. Lin Tian, why are you running? If you're a man, then stop and fight with me. What's the point of running away? Yun Luo laughed out loud as he chased after Lin Tian. His spiritual energy seemed to be free of charge as it struck Lin Tian's body. Lin Tian staggered and almost fell to the ground. Even though he was enraged, he did not stop chasing after the hamster. Hence, the entire palace could see a hamster running crazily in front, and two old men chasing it from behind. Yun Luofeng leaned lazily on Yun Zhao's body as she watched the chase with interest. She saw that Milk Tea was not in any danger and that the old man was having fun. Hence, she did not step forward to stop this farce. Instead, she turned her gaze towards Gao Tu, who was ready to make a move. Chapter 291. Qing Yan, Zhonglinger, what do you think we should do with these people? She raised the corner of her lips and narrowed her eyes with a dangerous glint. Zhonglinger blinked, her bright and lovely eyes filled with ridicule. Master, although Gao Ling is stupid and the emperor is biased, these people from the royal family don't deserve to die. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows and motioned for Zhonglinger to continue. So. Zhonglinger paused for a moment, then said, this subordinate has an idea. Master can cripple Gao Tu's strength and imprison him. Let him watch how the Yun family, which he once looked down on, grows step by step until they finally stand at the peak of the continent. Weren't you biased towards the Mu family at the time? It was precisely because Mu Wuxuan was a member of the royal family that you allowed Gao Ling to bully your master and acquiesce to all of Gao Ling and Mu Wuxuan's actions. Therefore, Zhonglinger wanted these people to watch the Yun family grow step by step and let Gao Tu spend the rest of his life in regret. That's a good idea, Yun Luofeng stroked his chin and said, Zhonglinger, do you have anything else to say? Zhonglinger was silent for a moment. This is a punishment for Gao Tu and his son. As for imperial concubine Mu, many things were caused by her and she is a member of the Mu family. We must cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. Before Gao Tu knew Mu Wuxuang's identity, many things had indeed happened because of imperial concubine Mu. It was because of her pillow talk that Gao Tu was biased towards the Mu family. Moreover, it was also because of her that Gao Tu acquiesced to Jing Lin's actions. This was the eternal hatred in Master Yun's heart. If he didn't eradicate the Mu family, he wouldn't be able to erase that painful memory. Qing Yan, do you have anything else to add? Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a smile as he turned to look at the little servant girl beside him. Qing Yan looked at Yun Luofeng, Miss, I think Zhong Linger's idea is very good, but I would like to add one more condition. That is, let Gao Tu and his son become Milk Tea's playmates. Milk Tea is very lonely without any playmates. Milk Tea? Hearing Qingyan's words, Gao Tu's face turned white. He looked in horror at the little hamster running wildly in front of him, his eyes revealing a deep fear. Become this little thing's playmate? It would be better to just let him die. Of course, this was what Gao Tu thought in his heart, but a person like him who was afraid of death would absolutely not commit suicide. He would rather live in pain than die in despair. Yun Xiao, what do you think? Yun Luofeng turned his gaze towards Yun Xiao and asked. Yun Xiao's voice was as cold and grim as ever. However, her words made one's heart feel extremely warm. As long as you're happy. As long as she felt happy, he would support her no matter what she did. Even if she wanted to slaughter everyone in the world, he would not leave her side. Yun Luofeng. When Gao Tu saw that these people had casually decided on his order, his face darkened and he said, "Don't forget, the imperial family is backed by the Spirit Order. Do you think you have the strength to fight against Spirit Gate?" I already knew about the existence of the Spirit Gate before I came here. Yun Luofeng raised his eyes towards Gao Ling and spoke in an indifferent tone. Since I still dared to cause trouble for the royal family despite knowing about the Spirit Gate, do you think that I would be scared off by your words? Gao Tu's expression changed once again. The Spirit Gate was his safeguard. If even this safeguard was useless, he would have no way of facing the Yun family's 100-man army. Chapter 292. Just as Gao Tu was thinking of a countermeasure, Lin Tian finally exhausted all of his energy. He could not help but stop in his tracks. He panted as he looked at the little hamster that had been maintaining a distance of about 10 meters from him. His old face was filled with anger. When I catch you, I'll crush you into a meat patty. This damned little thing was just an ordinary gold-seeking rat. A spiritual beast like the gold-seeking rat would only be able to stay at the low spiritualist rank for its entire life. How could it run so fast? Of course, the gold-seeking rat that Lin Tian knew was in the hands of others. Yun Luofeng's gold-seeking rat must be an existence that surpassed everyone's knowledge, so how could he catch up to it? Hee, I'm afraid you won't have the chance. Yun Luo looked at Lin Tian with a mocking gaze as he nibbled on a spirit fruit. His expression was very leisurely and his entire being was very relaxed. It was as if the person who had been chasing after Lin Tian just now wasn't him. Yun Luo. Lin Tian turned around angrily. Why are you fine after running for so long and hitting me so many times? This old fellow was weaker than him, and even he had no energy left, so how could this old thing still be so relaxed? He did not even take a deep breath? In reality, the reason why Yun Luo was so relaxed was related to the spirit fruit in his hand. When a high spiritualist consumed the first spirit fruit, they could instantly break through to the next level, but the second spirit fruit would not have any effect. However, this effect was only for increasing one's strength. For someone like the old man who ate the spirit fruit like a normal fruit, even if he could not use the spirit fruit to continue increasing his strength, he could still use it to recover his spiritual power and increase his physical strength. This was also why the old man did not take a deep breath after running for so long and using so much spiritual power. When the people from the Steel Flame Corps saw the old man nibbling on a spirit fruit while chasing Lin Tian, their hearts could not help but twitch. Such a good thing was wasted by him just like that. However, the others could not recognize the spirit fruit in Yun Luo's hand and only treated it as a normal fruit. Therefore, they did not pay much attention to it and were only shocked by the old man's strong physical strength. Do you want to know why my physical strength is so strong? Even my spiritual power is inexhaustible? The old man threw away the core of the fruit in his hand and looked at Lin Tian with disdain. GG. When the hamster saw this, it stopped in its tracks and ran toward the core that the old man had thrown on the ground. It grabbed the core and ran to the side to gnaw on it. Why? Lin Tian ignored the little hamster and asked in a puzzled tone. He still could not understand. Yun Luo's strength was clearly a level lower than his, so why was he not even panting after running for so long? Yun Luo's shameless face disappeared and was replaced by a solemn expression. Facing such a serious Yun Luo, Lin Tian temporarily put away the anger in his heart and waited for his reply. That's because. Yun Luo stroked his snow-white beard and replied seriously, you often visit brothels and your body has been squeezed dry. Of course you're weaker. How can you compare to a proper person like me? Old man, you're already so old. You'd better take good care of your body. Don't always let those women drain you dry. Lin Tian originally thought that Yun Luo would really answer his question, but who knew that this old fellow would actually say something like this, and it angered him to the point he almost spat out another mouthful of blood. Chapter 293. What did he mean by visiting a brothel? What did he mean by his body had been hollowed out by those women? He had been in closed-door cultivation every day, so when had he ever visited a brothel? He should have guessed that this old thing, Yun Luo, would never say anything nice. Waiting for him to answer your question? Dream on. Yun Luo, even if I die today, I will drag you down with me. Lin Tian's eyes were bloodshot as he charged towards Yun Luo as if he had been possessed. Even if he dies, he would never let this shameless old thing off. On the palanquin, Yun Shao stared at Lin Tian, who was charging towards old Master Yun, as a cold glint flashed across his deep, black eyes. He slowly raised his hand and a wave of spiritual energy shot out from his sleeve, hitting Lin Tian's leg with a loud bang. At this moment, Lin Tian had just rushed in front of Lord Master when he was caught off guard and was struck by the spiritual energy. His legs couldn't withstand the weight of the spiritual energy and he knelt down in front of Lord Master. That's right. He had indeed knelt down, but his knees were trembling non-stop and he could not even stand up. Tsk tisk. Master Yun placed his hands on his hips as he smiled at Lin Tian, who was kneeling in front of him. Lin Tian, even if you know that you're in the wrong, there's no need for you to kneel before me. Besides, even if you do, I won't forgive you. You. Lin Tian's face was filled with anger and humiliation as he glanced behind him with a pair of sharp eyes. Who was it? Who was the one who launched a sneak attack on me? Step forward. Bang! Just as Lin Tian was investigating the person who had launched a sneak attack, a hard rock flew towards him and hit his head. Immediately after, Milk Tea walked towards him with her short little legs and squeaked in ridicule. Lin Tian completely broke down. He wanted to crawl up from the ground, but before he could straighten his knees, a powerful pressure pressed towards him from the direction of the sedan and pressed his body fiercely onto the ground. Ha ha ha, Lin Tian, weren't you very capable in the past? To think that there would be a day where you would kneel down like me. Yun Luo roared with laughter as he sent Lin Tian's body flying with a single palm strike. After that, he leapt up and rode on Lin Tian's body as his fists rained down like a torrential storm. The old man fought fiercely, wanting to vent all the grievances he had endured over the years. However, the grim man on the sedan nonchalantly picked up a grape and placed it next to Yun Luofeng's mouth. There was no expression on his handsome face. It was as if the person who had suppressed Lin Tian was not him. Puff! Lin Tian spat out a mouthful of blood after being beaten by Grandpa Lin. There was not a single part of his face that was left intact. He was probably beaten so badly that even his mother would not be able to recognize him. When the old master's last punch landed, Lin Tian couldn't take it anymore and fainted. Seeing this, the old man felt rather bored. He got down from Yangming's body and clicked his tongue. How boring. This old thing's an advanced spiritualist, but he's so weak that he fainted after just a few hits. How many times? Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but twitch the corner of their mouths. Grandpa Lin had hit him a few hundred times, but in the end, he actually said that he had only hit him a few times. Little girl, I'll leave the aftermath to you. I, your grandfather, am going to find someone to drink tea and chat with. Grandpa Lin placed his hands behind his back and raised his head. His face was filled with complacency. It's really not worth wasting my precious time on these people. Yun Luofeng looked at the radiant Grandpa Lin and the corners of his lips curled into a smile. Have you vented enough? Chapter 294. Vent? What do you mean vent? Master Dong Tian glared at Yun Luofeng. I was just exchanging pointers with him. How is that venting? Do you think that I'm such a shameless villain? Once he had spoken, Master Dong Tian stroked his beard and continued in a serious manner. This was a fair competition between us. Do you understand what fairness is? I had defeated him because his skills were not as good as mine. If Lin Tian had heard Master Dong Tian's shameless words, he would have been angered to death. It was a good thing that Lin Tian had fainted earlier on, so he had managed to escape this calamity. Yun Luofeng was already aware of this old man's character, so she was not surprised at all. She gently raised her brow and glanced at her with a smile that did not reach her eyes. Then go back and wait for me. I'll go home once I'm done here. Huh, I'll wait for you at home. Yun Luofeng burst into laughter. His face was filled with satisfaction as he puffed out his chest and walked out of the imperial palace. He soon disappeared from Yun Luofeng's sight. Once the old man had left, Yun Luofeng retracted her gaze and glanced at Gao Tu and his son with her pitch-black eyes. Her eyes were filled with an evil smile. It's your turn now. I think that Zhonglinger and Qingyan's suggestion isn't bad. Since you've looked down on the Yun family, I'll show you how the Yun family rises to the pinnacle of the mainland. Gao Tu's expression changed instantly when he heard this. Yun Luofeng, are you really not afraid of the Spirit Order's revenge? His voice trembled and it was obvious that he no longer had his initial confidence. After all, even if the cultivators from the Spirit Order were to rush over, they would need a few days to do so. In that time, that hateful little hamster would certainly have killed them all. You'll find out soon enough whether we're afraid of the Spirit Order or not. The young girl's peerlessly beautiful face lit up with an evil smile. Everyone from the Steel Flame Regiment, hear my order. As she spoke, her voice became extremely loud and clear. Her voice echoed throughout the imperial palace. Instantly, everyone from the Steel Flame Regiment straightened their backs as if they were soldiers obeying an order. Take these people back to the general's mansion. If anyone resists, kill without mercy. Gao Tu and the others felt a chill run down their spines when they heard the words kill without mercy. Their entire bodies were surrounded by a sharp aura, causing them to not even dare to breathe loudly. However, when he saw the Steel Flame Legion pressing down on him, Gao Ling struggled and shouted, Yun Luofeng, are you really going to be so heartless? I know that I have eyes but failed to see. I shouldn't have chosen Mu Wushuang instead of you. I also know that you are retaliating against me for my choice. As long as you let me go, I am willing to listen to you. Yun Luofeng sneered in his heart when he saw the fear in Gao Ling's eyes. I wonder what the previous owner of this body saw in Gao Ling that she would even give up her life for such a man. Such a cowardly and useless person who was greedy for life and afraid of death could not be considered a man. Bring him back. The girl's voice was merciless, causing Jailing's heart to sink. His body stiffened as he allowed the Steel Flame Legion to drag him away. Yun Shao, when we get back, I'll be waiting for an explanation from you. Yun Luofeng curled the corners of his lips and turned his dark eyes towards Yun Shao with a smile that did not reach his eyes. I want to know what the Ghost Emperor's identity is all about. Chapter 295. It was nighttime and the moonlight was as clear as water. In the young girl's boudoir, a pleasant fragrance wafted through the air. The snow-white curtains fluttered gently in the wind, as if a gentle hand was gently caressing the young girl's peerlessly beautiful face. The man stood behind her and his grim black eyes stared straight at the young girl in front of him. I have no ulterior motives for coming to the Yun family home. He had come here only for her sake. As he spoke, the man's face was as expressionless as ever. However, the flash of nervousness in his eyes betrayed his inner feelings. He was afraid. He was afraid that Yun Luofeng would misunderstand him. If she had misunderstood him, he would not know how to win back her trust. And then? The young girl's voice was neither cold nor indifferent. There was no emotion in her voice and it was impossible to tell what she was thinking. Yun Shao stared blankly. Suddenly, he strode in front of the young girl and fiercely pulled her into his arms. He forcefully rubbed her body tightly as he lowered his eyes and quietly stared at the young girl in his arms. The young girl did not move and allowed Yun Shao to hold her. Seeing Yun Luofeng like this made him feel even more nervous. Trust me, I would never do anything to hurt you. The Ghost Emperor is just a title that outsiders have given me. In the Yun family, there is no Ghost Emperor, only Yun Shao. In the Yun family, there is no Ghost Emperor, only Yun Shao. Yun Luofeng felt a wave of warmth flow through her heart. She gently pushed the man who was holding her away and raised her head to stare at the grim and handsome face in front of her. Yun Shao, when we first met, you were badly injured and had fallen from the wall. I want to know, someone as powerful as you, how did you end up so badly injured that day? Yun Shao thought for a moment before replying, the cultivation method that I practice is a little special. The injury that day was caused by me falling into a frenzied state while I was cultivating and injured myself. By the time I had regained my senses, I was already badly injured. Furthermore, there were many people who wanted to snatch my cultivation method. In order to prevent them from finding out where I was, would change my location every time I finished cultivating. Who would have thought that I would injure myself so badly that I fainted just as I was about to leave? Cultivation method? Yun Luofeng gently furrowed his brows. What cultivation method do you practice? Yun Shao looked at Yun Luofeng and replied honestly, the cultivation method that I practice is called the Heavenly Spirit Technique. Heavenly Spirit Technique? While Yun Luofeng was hesitating, Little Mo's surprised voice came from her soul. Master, I know about this Heavenly Spirit cultivation method. I never thought that Yun Zhao's luck would be so good to actually obtain this Heavenly Spirit cultivation method. Furthermore, this Heavenly Spirit cultivation method is the most suitable cultivation method for a corporeal spiritual body to cultivate. However, every time the Heavenly Spirit cultivation method breaks through a layer, at the same time as his cultivation base rises, he will indeed enter a state of madness. He will completely not recognize his own family and will even hurt himself. Yun Luofeng's heart sank when he heard Little Mo's words. Is there a solution? Yun Luofeng didn't notice in the slightest that the eyes of the little fellow in the divine grimoire space lit up after he asked the question. Yes, of course there is. The next time Yun Shao breaks through, Master, you can dual cultivate with him. As long as he dual cultivates with you, his madness will not flare up. Yun Luofeng gently stroked his chin and did not reply to Shao Mo's question. Instead, he turned his gaze towards Yun Shao once again. Then why have you come to the Yun family? Just because I saved you and saw your face under the mask, you want me to take responsibility? Chapter 296. Yun Zhao's black eyes stared unblinkingly at Yun Luofeng. Back then, when I came to find you, I said something. The feeling of being by your side made me feel very comfortable. I didn't lie to you when I said that. As long as I stand by your side, my entire body feels comfortable. Ever since he started cultivating the Heavenly Spirit skill, his soul would often experience a tearing pain. However, as long as he stood by Yun Luofeng's side, he would feel that his body and soul were surrounded by a warm spiritual energy. It was incomparably comfortable. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows. I didn't know I had this ability. That day, Yun Shao had indeed said something like this, but she didn't care. That little fellow Shao Mo must have understood what he meant but didn't tell her. Yun Shao, this is why you came to the Yun family to find me. Yun Shao nodded honestly. That was indeed the case in the beginning. Then what about now? Now. He paused, then said, I want to be responsible for you. Since you aren't willing to be responsible for me, then I will be responsible for you to the end. In this lifetime, you won't be able to escape my clutches. The man's voice was firm and sincere, causing Yun Luofeng's heart to tremble. His pitch-black eyes stared at the man standing in front of him. Yun Shao, no matter where you are in the future, when you have a breakthrough in the Heavenly Spirit skill, come to the Yun family to find me. Yun Shao didn't understand the meaning of Yun Luofeng's words and frowned slightly. I won't leave this place. Wherever you are, that is my home. Yun Luofeng smiled helplessly. Yun Shao, it is impossible for you to stay by my side for the rest of your life. You will always temporarily leave my side because of your own matters, but no matter what you leave for, as long as you are about to break through, you must return to my side. I can help you cure your madness. In this lifetime, to have met such a foolish man like Yun Shao, what reason did she have not to cherish him? If it was to prevent Yun Shao from hurting herself, she was willing to dual cultivate with him. All right. Yun Zhao's brows furrowed deeply as he looked at Yun Luofeng. I believe you. As long as she said it, he would firmly believe it. Even if she fed him a bowl of poison one day, as long as she said it wasn't poison, he would drink it without hesitation. Yun Shao, I won't bicker with you over the fact that you've lied to me. Yun Luofeng gently narrowed his eyes. However, if there's anything else you're hiding from me, you can say it now. Upon hearing this, Yun Shao fell silent. After a long while, he finally spoke. Actually, I'm not an orphan. My parents are still alive, but I left them when I was young. A solemn expression appeared on Yun Luofeng's face. Continue. I was a good-for-nothing since I was young. I couldn't cultivate. Therefore, when I was 7 years old, I was chased out of the clan. I was stripped of my surname and removed from the clan. The surname Shao was given to me by my mother before she passed away. The man's words caused Yun Luofeng's heart to feel stifled. No wonder when she had first asked Yun Shao for his surname, he had only said that his first name was Shao and he didn't have a surname. So, he actually had such a past. Yun Shao, then why are you trapped in the forest of no return? Who threw you into that kind of place? It's my father's woman. Yun Zhao's gaze became even colder. My mother was born lowly but her talents were outstanding. Thus, he took a fancy to my mother and thought that with my mother's talents, the next generation would be even more talented. But who would have thought that I was a good-for-nothing? Chapter 297. Since I was a good-for-nothing, my mother was of no use to me. So, he demoted my mother from a wife to a concubine and married someone else. On the day he married someone else, my name was removed from the clan hall and I was chased out of the family. At the same time, his new wife sent someone to throw me into the forest of no return. With each sentence that Yun Shao said, Yun Luofeng's heart sunk a little. She has never seen a father so cruel that he would chase his own son out of the family and let him perish on his own. Yun Shao. Yun Luofeng stretched out his arms and gently embraced Yun Zhao's body. He lowered his head and said word by word, "Don't worry, I will definitely avenge you. No one can live well after hurting you. No matter how powerful the enemy he faces, she will face them together with him and never abandon him in life or death." Yun Shao was shocked. He raised his arms and hugged Yun Luofeng's body. His initially cold and grim features curled into a shallow angle. "I have you now. That's enough." The torment he had experienced when he was young had shaped his current callousness and sharpened his heart to become incomparably cruel. However, only in front of the young girl in his arms would he lower his guard and willingly become gentle. As if remembering something, Yun Shao continued, "The Shao family does not seem to know that this woman had once thrown me into the forest of no return. Hence, the Shao family members seem to be searching for me on this mainland." The forest of no return was a place of no return. If he had been thrown into the forest of no return, the Shao family would certainly think that he had lost his life. No matter what, they would never send anyone to search for his whereabouts. "They're looking for you?" Yun Luofeng raised his brows but a cold smile appeared in his eyes. "That day, they were the ones who had chased you out of the family. Why are they looking for you now?" Yun Shao shook his head, "I don't know." After saying this, he paused and added, "No matter why they're looking for me, I will never return to the Shao family. This is the only place where I should stay." Yun Luofeng gently stroked his chin. "Do those people know of your current level of power?" "In the outside world, I wear a mask so no one knows that I am the Ghost Emperor." Hearing this, Yun Luofeng fell into deep thought. Those people did not know Yun Zhao's strength, so why were they looking for him? Yun Luofeng would never believe that he didn't have a motive. "Yun Shao, no matter what kind of difficulties you face, I will face them together with you." The young girl's words caused the man's heart to tremble slightly. His black eyes were no longer as cold as before. "I don't want to see the Shao family. It's not that I'm afraid of them, it's just that I don't want those people to taint my eyes and my hands." The man's expression was exceptionally serious as he stared straight at Yun Luofeng. My eyes only need to look at you. My hands are only used to hug you. My strength is also used to protect you. No one else is worth it. Yun Shao wasn't someone who knew how to say sweet nothings, but every word he said was very sincere, making people involuntarily believe him. The corners of Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a smile. Yun Shao, you don't want those people to taint your hands, but I can't tolerate anyone who has ever bullied you or hurt you. One day, I will make them live in regret.